journey week by week. SNL's best episodes they seek. From Colin to Hanks to Mulaney, counting down moments for you and me. Amazing episodes, epic hosts, the ones that the fans love the most.
Yes, so welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of our countdown of SNL's greatest episodes of all time. My name is John Schneider from the SNN. So excited to be back with you on this very busy Monday night in the SNL world. So much to talk about here. You better believe we're going to get into all the news that broke today and reveal 3 more episodes on the countdown. Of course, we are here as a presentation of LateNighter.com, and I got my partner in crime here tonight, Bill Kenny. Bill, how are you?
I'm good, John. This is, a lot. SNL seems to be a heat-seeking missile this time of year for our podcasts, and excited to talk about it. You know, this week carries a lot of trepidation, a lot of nervous energy, figuring out what's going to happen with our favorite show. We got a lot of it today. I can't wait to get into that, and 3 epic episodes that we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. And I know there are many of our listeners who are not on social media, so we will talk through the news that was revealed during the day today. But before we get there, let's introduce our 2 patrons we have on the show here tonight. So excited to speak to both of them all night long. First, let's bring in my man, Ajax is here. Ajax, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing very, very well. Thank you so much for having me. It's definitely a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited to talk about these episodes.
Yeah, thrilled to have you on the show here tonight. And joining us once again on the show is the incredible Fred. Fred, how are you?
I'm doing so great. Very excited to talk about 12 through 10 and also some of the breaking news here. Yeah, it's a good spot.
Yeah, me too, guys. Yeah, a lot. It's a great episode to be on. So it is a fun day in the SNL world whenever we get some news, a little bittersweet when we find out some people are leaving the show. So let's talk through what we know so far here for season 51. And the first piece of major news that we have revealed for season 51 is that Devin Walker, SNL cast member for the last 3 seasons, is officially not returning to the show. He did announce today on his Instagram that it was mutual or somewhat mutual that he's leaving after these 3 seasons, joined the show in season 48. And we got to talk to Devin this year earlier at SNL 50. He's really just a wonderful guy. But he said, to me, jobs in this industry feel like a bunch of little marriages. Some of them last for a long time if we're lucky, but most of them are fleeting, permanent until they're not. That's the deal. You know what it is when you sign up. Me and the show did 3 years together, and sometimes it was really cool. Sometimes it was toxic as hell, but we did what we made the most of what it was, even amidst all the dysfunction. We made a fucked up little family. More than anything, I'm just really happy I got to do it with Gary and Alex. We really went from running a bar show to working together at 30 Rock. It's a beautiful thing. Also, I look caked up in that picture, and I feel like it's important for people to know what I got going on. Anyway, about to go to Japan. When I'm back, I'm trying to be in a prestige drama, ideally something with Julianne Moore. Hope you all stay hydrated and getting some money today. So I did briefly talk to Devin earlier today. He seems to be doing great. Honestly, a great guy. So really excited to have him on the podcast at some point. Sometimes these situations are not as clear cut as like somebody being let go or choosing to sleep on their own. Usually it's somewhere in the middle. Punky Johnson spoke about that a lot last year on the show with us about how sometimes those conversations go down. And that seems to be a similar situation here with Devin, where he is now departing after 3 seasons on the show. So Bill Kenny, let's get a first reaction from you.
Well, we talked about this. You and Mike and I talked about this on the season finale of By the Numbers, and he came last in the listings for that, and we all kind of felt like this might be the end. Unfortunately, the stand-ups sometimes just have a really hard time breaking through on SNL. Sometimes it works if you get somebody like Pete who's on Update every other week and things like that. Devin, he had a great 48. He had a lot of things, but he never really got characters on. We got a little bit from him with Young Spicy, and then Millie Pounds and Shirty with Jazz. So, but that was on Update as well. So there wasn't a lot there other than kind of taking over a lot of the impressions from Chris Redd after 47. So unfortunately, this kind of was something that we could see coming. I wish him the best. And then I've heard his stand-up is amazing. So.
Yeah, an absolutely incredible stand-up, super talented guy, maybe never got to see his full potential on the show. Ajax, would love to know your perspective on Devin Walker leaving Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise, but at the same time, he's just such a great guy. I mean, he seems like just the nicest, most humble, modest dude ever. So, It's not a fun leave. It's even if it's a likely was a likely one. I do want to mention a character though that I loved of his. I finally dug it up. I'm like, what episode was this on? Which kind of goes to the point of he didn't get enough characters on. But Samson Gibson from the Dakota Johnson episode last year, there was a spark there. There was something there, and I just wanted to see more of that character. They could have made it recurring. I just wonder if they ever try to get any more of Samson on, because I loved that sketch. It was a 10-1, kind of buried at the end of the show, but it was so good.
Yeah, that was that lost bag sketch that we had the Dakota Johnson episode. I remember we were talking about it being like a little bit of a weird night for Dakota, but that last sketch was interesting. And that's how it always felt with Devin Walker, who I think everyone seems to really like, seems like a really charming person, but would have just spots where he would pop up every few episodes, not the consistency you're looking for from someone who's really going to dominate the show. So Fred, how do you feel about Devin leaving after 3 seasons?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he probably just thought he got what he could out of the show and maybe wasn't going to grow there. Like, I've seen him do stand. I actually saw him with Judge and Longfellow last year in Brooklyn, and they're all incredible. But Devin Walker especially is just so natural and just like such a likable guy. So, I'm sure he just thought like, what's best for me is something. I've done what I could here, and he's just moving on. But yeah, I mean, I always enjoyed his time.
Yeah, look, this is one of those things where if you're really in tap with the SNL world, you may have felt like the writing was potentially on the wall, or else there had to be some sort of major change. Sometimes you have these featured players or first-year repertory players that are starting to build potential, but we're waiting for these breakout moments and saying like, okay, this is the episode. I think it was this past season, he filmed this whole TikTok thing for updates where he was going backstage and showing like a day in the life. And, we were just like clamoring on to anything that Devin brought us because we wanted to see those moments. I think back to in season 48, the Aubrey Plaza episode, there was this HIV commercial character that he did towards the end. And I thought like right away when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, I see it now. I see what they were noticing, and his sketch work. Like I said, just the consistency was ultimately missing. Mike talked about this a lot on By the Numbers, about him being lower in the power rankings. And ultimately that took effect here with him not being brought back for a 4th season. Doesn't mean, sometimes that when you don't see it on SNL, it doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't have it or that they couldn't have had it. But for whatever reason, circumstantially, it just didn't fully click. And I am fully confident in saying that Devin's going to have a great career outside the show. So wishing him the best. And I know he has a podcast out now. I'm sure he's going to talk about his experience and why ultimately this decision was made. And then hopefully we'll get a chance to have him on sometime soon to talk about that as well. He's always welcome here on the SNN. I will say one quick anecdote is that during SNL 50, I'd been walking with James through 30 Rock, and we walked by the pop-up shop, the live, the New York from Nowhere, like that all thing with all of the great merchandise that they had throughout SNL 50. And we saw Devin and James Austin Johnson, and they waved us over, and we went inside the store. And Devin said to me, he was like, he's like, how you guys doing? Like, we sort of knew each other. And he just said like, tell me what you want. The cast members can get as much merchandise as they want from here. So I'm going to get you some gear. So he got me an SNL 50, the New York jackets. He got me a hat, a shirt. Like, it was a really, really nice thing. And when I saw him on the carpet, I gave him a big hug, and I just said, thank you so much, man. He's just like a really, really good guy. Didn't have to do that, but just really want to thank Devin for that and for his time here on the show. So I appreciate you, Devin Walker. Other news here that broke in the last couple of days, and of course, if anything else comes out tonight, we'll be sure to go to it. But a couple of important writers in the room also are leaving the show, so we'll talk about that pretty briefly here. Where Celeste Yim is leaving the show, departing the writing staff after 5 seasons. Celeste was a writing supervisor there recently. We also have Rosebud Baker leaving the show. Rosebud was a writer for her first 3 seasons on the show, and then moved to writing for Weekend Update last season. So Celeste is a writer that wrote with Bowen a lot on the show, someone who was pretty well connected in the writer's room, wasn't there for part of season 50. So you may have been feeling like, okay, this might be near the end of Celeste's time at Saturday Night Live. But really just a very fun person, super nice when I met them at the show. Really happy for Celeste, whatever they decide to do next. And Rosebud, I think, is someone who a lot of people were talking about as potentially being a successor to Weekend Update. She's very close with Michael Che. So again, 2 interesting departures here, Bill, from the writer's room. Any thoughts?
Yeah, Celeste, broke barriers, first openly trans writer on SNL. and had some amazing pieces. The first thing that came to mind when I heard this today was the legs sketch that you and I talked about all the way back on the Carey Mulligan episode, where you didn't know it was a real thing, right, John?
That was that was a while ago, but true.
That was a long time ago, but they had a lot of great pieces. Trend Forecasters was a big part. 80s Dream, the Be Real sketch with Miles Teller. A lot of important stuff. So sad to see them go. Rosebud, really an amazing stand-up as well, just like Devin. Great Netflix special. If you haven't seen it, go watch that. Not as many big pieces, I think, as Celeste, but we did get she had a big part in Last Supper, which kind of started the whole Zhazh as Trump as stand-up, and then the Last Science Room with Streeter with Steve and Marty back in '48. So sad to see them go. You hope when this happens that they have success, and you also hope that SNL continues to diversify and make changes like this, because it's important to modernize the show and keep moving forward. So hopefully whoever comes in and replaces them is able to do so.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how the writing styles start to change as we get more news and head towards 51. Ajax, would you like to say anything about these two writers departing the show?
Yeah, I mean, Celeste, they were all over that Peacock doc on the writers. So, I mean, they were like the star of that. So, I mean, they're just going to find success, no doubt. And then Rosebud, yeah, that special was great. And I know she worked on Weekend Update toward the end more. So that's probably why she didn't get as much on. But, I mean, the jokes speak for themselves. Weekend Update's been strong for years now. And so she played a big role in that. So they're going to be missed for sure.
Yeah, if you want to see Rosebud on camera, she appeared during the Jacob Elordi monologue during season 49. So you got to see her there. I think Celeste appeared a couple times on the show. The It's Pride Again from the Anya Taylor-Joy episode. They were in that one. I believe they were also in the monologue in that group during Steve Martin's monologue during SNL 50, where they pointed to all the writers that were outside. So that was a nice bit there as well, if you wanted to see these two writers on camera anywhere. Fred, any commentary on these writers departing the show?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, they were definitely in the 50th with all the writers. But I feel like consistently, whenever, on your show, I heard either of these two writers wrote something, I always liked it. So I'm very confident they're going to do great with whatever.
Yeah, I spoke to Rosebud Baker today, and also just truly happy for her time at the show. She's planning a tour in the fall, so going to keep herself very busy. She's a very, very good stand-up and has a big future. So hopefully we'll continue to see great things from Rosebud and get her on. And if Celeste would like to come on as well, totally welcome. I remember being at Just for Laughs between season 47 and 48. This was shortly after Rosebud Baker was hired, and Rosebud was performing some stand-up there. And I reached out to Rosebud's manager just to see if I could come over and say hello. Hadn't met like too many SNL people at the time. We were still pretty new into this, but Rosebud came outside, gave me a big hug, was so warm and super nice. And every time I've seen her since then, just always willing to chat with us and talk. And just really, really happy for her, happy for Celeste, and hope that they do great things moving forward. So, of course, that is it for now with the SNL departure news. This is only probably the tip of the iceberg, according to what we have heard, based on Puck's recent interview with Lorne Michaels that came out last week, where he talked about some major changes coming up towards season 51. So our plan is that, we are live every Monday night through the rest of this countdown. Of course, we'll talk through things in more detail on these shows, but if any major breaking news does come out between now and next week, we'll try our best to go live for an additional show to talk about everything. So hopefully we will have wall-to-wall coverage of everything, preparing you for SNL 51, and we will be there to cover it all. So very exciting stuff, Bill Kenny, as we head towards the new season.
Yeah, I mean, change is always scary, but I think we could all see this was coming in some form or another. I'm excited to see what happens. Every time we get change on SNL, we end up enjoying the new people that we get. So sad to see people go, but happy to see who we're going to get now.
Yes, definitely. And like I said, if anything does happen to break during the show tonight, we will discuss it all. All right, let's move forward to what we came here for and talk about this countdown as we are headed into the top 12 greatest episodes of all time. So we have to have some epic episodes on the list tonight. We'll see if that does come true. So for now, let's talk about the episodes we have revealed over the previous 11 weeks, as I will put them up on camera here if you're watching us on YouTube. And there it goes. There, don't have to give you a headache, Kenny, but here we go. All the way from 50 through to 13. We'll start with Patrick Swayze's episode from season 16, Michael Jordan's from season 17, David Allen Greer from season 21, Anne Hathaway season 34, Jerry Seinfeld season 17. We got Conan's episode from 26, Timberlake Double Duty from season 38, William Shatner from season 12, Justin Timberlake's from 36, Christopher Walken from season 28. That takes us down to 40, where we got Alec Baldwin season 24 episode, Sigourney Weaver from season 12, Ryan Gosling from 49, Alec Baldwin season 15 episode, Seth MacFarlane from season 38, Lindsay Lohan from 29, Christopher Walken from season 18, Charles Grodin from season 3. Then we have Jimmy Fallon from season 37, Jason Sudeikis from season 47, Will Ferrell is at 30 with his episode from season 34, George Carlin from season 1, the series premiere, Peyton Manning season 32, Pedro Pascal 48, Tom Hanks from season 16, that's his Five Timers episode. We got Jack Black's episode from this past season 50 is at 25, Tom Hanks, the premiere from season 14, is at 24. We got Tina and Amy's episode up next, season 41, Don Rickles from season 9, John Hamm from season 34, into the top 20, where we have Kristen Wiig's episode from 49, Jimmy Fallon's episode from 39, Tom Hanks from season 15, Larry David from season 41, Candice Bergen season 2 episode, and then the 3 episodes we revealed last week was Nate Bargatze's episode from season 49, that's his first time, John Mulaney's first episode, season 43, and then Marty Short and Paul McCartney, the Christmas episode from season 38. Bill Kenny, what do you think of the list so far?
Going to give you the Mike Murray Lozenge Award, John, as we get closer to the top here. Yes. Yeah. I mean, 3 epic hosts, 3, very good episodes that we talked about last week. Starting to get a little bit nervous about some of the people we haven't seen yet, like Steve Martin, John Goodman, Buck Henry. It's getting to be go time here, and we only have 12 left to reveal. So a little concerned about that, but overall, I think we're in a pretty good spot here.
Fred, you've been following the countdown for many weeks now. How are you feeling like this all came together up through 13?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like it does definitely depend on what's to come. And I only know the next 3. I am surprised also, like Bill said, that even if it was just from hearing their names a lot, that John Goodman or Buck Henry have not come up yet. So that's pretty surprising. I do think that there is a pretty good variety though, like throughout the decades. I guess it's a little backloaded. There's a couple there that are a bit backloaded. I don't even know if it's necessarily a recency bias. It could also just be like this shows that comedic sensibilities have kind of changed with time, and it just resonates more with people that are viewing newer seasons. But it's a good variety here. But there's a few hosts that definitely have been coming up quite a bit.
Yeah, we've seen some repetitiveness, but that's okay. I mean, if you get some all-time epic hosts, then it's possible that they're going to come up on this list, and we'll see if we get more of that coming up soon. Ajax, how are you feeling about the countdown so far?
I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. I think it is very well balanced. It's got a little bit of everything. A lot of episodes I would easily go back and watch over and over and over again. The thing that surprises me, though, is just the lack of seasons 1 through 5. I mean, we got the OG number 1 first episode ever on there, but other than that, Candice Bergen. I mean, it's pretty sparse for the not ready for primetime players.
Yeah, we got Bergen and we got Grodin here.
Grodin, that's right.
3. Nothing from season 4 or 5 yet on the countdown. It will be interesting to see if there are any that do pop up over the next 12 episodes that we reveal. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where I feel like we covered the second golden era a lot. We covered the third golden era a lot. That first golden era, we're really picking out the all-time major ones. So in a way, I almost do feel like they got some stuff right when you're starting to pick like the best of an era, but it's littered with other episodes from other eras. So I see I see it both ways, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think that the ones that they took from the original era are the really, really great ones. There's obviously a few more that I can think of that I hope do come up, but we could probably celebrate the 70s a little bit more on this countdown. So I agree with you, Ajax, in that sense. All right, so that's the countdown so far. How about we get to the show tonight and reveal the next 3 episodes? And I'm excited to talk about this one here at number 12 on the list, which will be a great ton of fun because this is the return of a cast member that I think people were asking to host for a very long time, and he finally did it. So let's go back to season 44, a season we did not talk about yet on the countdown, with Adam Sandler finally returning to host Saturday Night Live with music from Shawn Mendes. This was a homecoming. I mean, Sandler had been at the show. We saw him at the 40th. He had cameoed a couple times, but this is, probably the most successful SNL cast member ever. I mean, one of them off the show. And I think that this was a night people were anticipating. If you were around during the Bad Boys era, Sandler's your guy. And there's just so many people that tune back into SNL that night on May 4th, 2019 to get to see Sandler finally host the show. So Bill, how do you feel about this episode and its place on the list?
Stop looking at me, John. I love, precursor here. I love Adam Sandler. I mean, as most people do, he's one of my favorite of all time. His tenure ended badly. He's part of that season 20 that, we lost both him and Farley, as he alludes to in the monologue, and wasn't their fault necessarily, but the show had really gone off the rails in his final season. And yeah, as you said, he does make the occasional appearance. He did a cold open. He was at the 40th, at the 25th as well. But we hadn't seen a lot of him. So I think, it's kind of funny to think about. This was all within 7 months, but we get him and Eddie coming back, probably the 2 most prodigal sons that are still with us. And this was a big deal. This probably meant more to me than Eddie coming back, because he was more my era and had stayed more in the spotlight with the movies that he was making up until this point. So I think this is a fantastic episode and well-deserved to be here.
When we were about to go into SNL 50 and talk about that crazy week, we were discussing at the beginning of our preview show about the biggest things that happened since SNL 40. And I wanted to make a point that I feel like this is one of the landmark episodes that happened between 40 and 50, where I almost felt, and again, the talk of like Lorne Michaels retiring has still been going on for years and years, but at the time, it almost felt that there was, some bucket list things that we still needed to see from Lorne producing the show for him to have done everything he possibly could do. And I felt like this was one. This was getting Adam Sandler finally to come and host the show. I don't think when he got fired, as he talks about in the monologue we'll get to in a bit, at the end of season 20, that anyone at Saturday Night Live would have thought that he would have gone on to have as much success as he did. But he not only had that success, but also still loved the show. Like, he loved that he was there. He admired his time, he admired his castmates, and I think that was the thing that, unlike Eddie, who obviously had a hot and cold relationship with the show, to say it lightly, it almost was like an even bigger question mark for so many years of like, why hasn't Sandler come back and host? So Ajax, how did it feel for you to revisit this episode finally in season 44?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I remember watching it live and just not realizing what I was watching and how great of an episode it was until rewatching it. Really, I mean, it's nothing but bangers here, all killer, no filler. I mean, we've got so many great things to talk about. Even the pre-tapes are lights out. I mean, it's just stacked from top to bottom. And and then tear jerkers too. Just like the icing on the cake, the very last thing. I mean, if you got 2 ears and a heart, you're gonna start bawling. So, oh my goodness, this is just, it's maybe low. I mean, I might put this in top 10 after watching it again. I'm like, wow, this is something special. Yeah,
it's nostalgia fueled in a way that I think is exciting, because a lot of other people in that era didn't necessarily have the nostalgic moments on the show. Like, you had Chris Rock come back a bunch of times, but he's not like reminiscing about his time as a cast member Obviously, Farley's going to host in like a really bad place at a certain point before he passes, but we just don't get like the bad boys. Even when Spade hosts, like he's not like talking, he does Hollywood Minute, but he's like really talking about himself. Like you don't get that sort of camaraderie. But I think Sandler almost like is the poster boy for his era. And we get that here, a celebration of that era in a way that I don't think has ever been done on the show. So Fred, this was really exciting for me to go back and see it. How did it feel for you?
So I love this episode, but I think I'm one of the few people that is going to say, like, obviously deserves to be on this list, but I think 12 might be high personally. Like, I do actually think there's a few sketches that I didn't love. That being said, like the highs here are incredibly high and like very tough to top. But it was great to watch, and I also love Adam Sandler so very much. So anything he does just like makes me smile.
Yeah, I would actually somewhat agree with you. I think I'm more with you than Bill and Ajax, who might be a little bit higher on this episode. I mean, we'll see how Bill puts us on his rankings at the end of the show. But I think that this is an all-time great episode, totally deserving of being in the top 50. I think there's a couple things that didn't fully play for me, especially on rewatch. But there's so much to celebrate here, and I really do love getting to talk about this episode, especially because I want to contextualize that I think season 44 is one of the worst seasons in the history of the show. I will flat out just like I'll carry the flag for that, because I think that we talk about a lot of crazy seasons, 6, 20, 11. Like we talk about ones that are like notoriously bad, but 44 and 45 at the time, like people were complaining. There was a lot happening externally outside the show, but I think the show was just falling like way behind and falling into a rut of doing really bad things. And there was something about this episode that like to me took me out of a season that was really rough. And I almost feel like this was like so refreshing to watch live in a way that's hard to explain on rewatch. So I also think that adds to his greatness in a way. And let's talk about what we see here in the cold open first, which is, we get sort of a little bit of a trick played on the audience where we think we're going to get a William Barr testimony cold open. And it's going to be like, oh, well, I guess like Trump era politics in his first administration. But they switched to what everyone wants to talk about at the time, which was Avengers versus Game of Thrones. So, Avengers movies in May of 2019, obviously we're in like the peak of Marvel versus the end of the run of Game of Thrones, where everyone was glued to their television to see how the show was going to end. And we get Keenan coming out to anchor a ton of impressions from the cast. Bill, how do you feel this cold open played on rewatch?
Yeah, it really puts the topicality of it. I had forgotten that this was the week after the unwatchable, not unwatchable because it was bad, but the unwatchable Game of Thrones, where everything was so dark in that battle that you couldn't see what was happening. And then, of course, the Avengers. So, yeah, I mean, there's some interesting impressions here. I think, Beck as Thanos is really good, or Swole Grimace, as Keenan calls him. It's nice to kind of have a cold open like this where it's not about politics. It's covering two huge pop culture events that are happening at this very moment. So I enjoy this one.
There's a lot of really inside baseball references for Avengers and Game of Thrones. And like, I happen to be someone who watched all of those. So like, I get everything that they're going for here, but this is one that like, I think is pretty tough for those who didn't either watch Game of Thrones and know what was going on towards the end of their final season. Or, I mean, Marvel's probably a little bit more mainstream, I would even say. Like, Game of Thrones is one of the biggest shows in the world, but I just think that, like, some of the references they're making in these sketches were so particular to the people who were still alive at the end of Game of Thrones that it's almost, like, hard to imagine what watching this is like if you didn't watch the show. So, Fred, how did this play for you?
So I really appreciate that it's not political, but I think it was Gelp in the chat who said the same thing, but it's hacky to me. And I'm not trying to be like a Debbie Downer about it. It's like, it seemed like one of those, like, what do we call them? Like parade sketches where it's just like back to back to back impressions. And like, but it's almost so literal. Some, like, there were jokes sprinkled in, but it felt like very fan servicey. And I'm not trying to be like negative about it, but like, look, it was like fun. And I'm sure at the time it was fun, but I felt like it didn't really have a lot of substance.
I think it felt like a breath of fresh air just compared to the other politics stuff that they were doing at the time. So
Right.
that was what was enjoyable about it. But you, again, have to, I think, like these shows to like the impressions. I wouldn't necessarily categorize it as parade, though, because to me, parade is like they come into the sketch and they come out of the sketch and then you see
Right.
the next thing. Whereas this is just sort of an impression off. But still sort of services the same thing that you might be looking for in that particular sketch. Ajax, how do you feel about this cold open?
I love it. I thought it was very well written. Anytime I see Keenan as Steve Harvey, it's pure joy for me. I mean, I'm just like sit back and enjoy the ride, and just his back and forth with the panel. I mean, I loved Ego as Okoye. He says, "Bald is beautiful. You make a good dog want to break his chain," and they kept calling her Okie Dokie and Okra. I mean, there was some just, and then Leslie Jones as Groot, and then he calls her the Giving Tree. I mean, it's so funny. I loved it.
The Maybelline joke was really nice also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought Keenan was so good in this one. Honestly, I think he really like just thrives in that role. We were getting a lot of Celebrity Family Feud sketches around this time and slightly earlier. So I think he just like nailed this, and this truly cements him as the anchor of the show when he does this role. So yeah, I thought a lot of stuff was great here. Leslie was a lot. Had a great impression, even though it was not really an impression. So I think there was some good stuff here. Let's go to Sandler's monologue. So, again, years of anticipation to see what Sandler would be talking about. He says it's so great to be back at Saturday Night Live after so many years. Talks about how he lost his virginity in the studio to the church lady, and then sings this song that I think people have remembered so well since that night, singing about how he was fired. And I think it had always been reported that he was fired. If you're like one of those SNL fans that reads the books or, listens to podcasts, like I think the story about what happens at the end of season 20. But I do wonder like how mainstream it was at the time until he goes and sings that he was fired, like what the real true story was. But he sings that. Chris Rock will come out talking about how he was fired. And then Pete Davidson has a nice bit, who is probably having his most mainstream moment on the show at the time, where he comes out and saying how he should be fired soon. Bill, revisiting this, how did it feel?
Yeah, at the time in 95, like you didn't really know. I mean, there were articles in Entertainment Weekly and in newspapers and things like that, but there wasn't a lot that was really clear whether, we're talking tonight just about Devin and, was he let go or did he leave? And by the end of the week, we'll probably know exactly what happened. But it wasn't like that then. And I think for years there was debate on whether or not he was fired or if he had walked away. Obviously, we know now, besides this monologue, that him and Farley and the rest of them were let go. This is fun, and to include Pete in this, and Pete saying, "How is that possible that I haven't been fired?" Chris Rock coming in talking about his 3-week stint on In Living Color. Is really great too. But yeah, I mean, this kind of puts a kibosh on any thoughts of what happened, and we get a shout out to Crazy Spoonhead. So can't beat that.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to think back. I mean, if you go, I guess, 24 years earlier to his time on the show, Sandler is such a different performer. Yes, he has these like big moments that are great, but by season 20, they're like just running on fumes, and like their writing is so bad. And it's almost like the show just needs that shake up. They're like on life support. And I agree. Like, if you're watching close enough, you know what's going on, but there just wasn't the same amount of coverage then. So this is almost eye-opening for, I'm sure, a lot of people to be like, oh, that's what happened back then. Ajax, how did this play for you in the monologue?
I love it. I loved it too. I mean, it almost kind of sounded like a Springsteen style song approach to the song, but Sandler does this thing where a lot of singing monologues, it takes me a second to pick up on the lyrics and hear them. He's crystal clear. He brings the cleverness into just the simple, tangible kind of thing, and I really, really love the song. I thought it was phenomenal. I loved it.
It's very catchy.
Very
Fred,
catchy.
Do you love it?
No, I love it too. It's super catchy, and what I really appreciate about it is also sometimes you basically know like how like a line's gonna end, but like I'm okay with that because it's all about like his delivery and like his charm. That it's not always just full of surprises, but I thought the song's super catchy. I was like thinking about it all weekend when I watched it. So I think it was cool, and it was a great way to like also throw like a throwback to his tenure, which like came up before about like when he was on the show and like how much he was speaking about it. Um, it was really
I
nice.
I also loved the Pete Davidson cameo, or not cameo, but coming into the end of this. It almost felt like a cameo in a way, but him coming in the end, because when Pete first starts on the show, there are a lot of Sandler comparisons that people were making about this like next young guy coming into the show in a way, and sort of has that bravado that Sandler had. And I just love that we ended up getting them together. I think that was really great. So let's talk about the first sketch after the monologue, which is the CNN special report sketch, Chaos in Tripoli, where we're going to have a journalist played by Mikey Day out there to report on a militia group invading, but he can't connect. The internet's down. You can only connect through this special app called Snapchat. And we are going to see all of these filters that make their way through to the news desk, where we get Beck there making some great commentary throughout this entire sketch. Of course, this will continue on where we see Adam Sandler as well as the lieutenant yelling freedom and playing around with the filters. But this is just like a very classic early Mikey Day, Streeter Seidel sketch of them messing with the format, something to do with names or what you see on screen. So this is what you might expect at the time to get into this episode from this era. Fred, how did it feel for you to see this sketch again?
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the fact that it felt like very like Mikey and Streeter, making fun of Snapchat. It was just like a very easy kind of format and joke to follow. That was like very fun to watch. But yeah, Beck stole the show in my opinion. Like I could just watch Beck be Beck the entire time. It was just like it just made me miss him so much. Like I forgot almost how incredible Beck was during this era, and it was like much needed at the time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Beck was my favorite cast member at the time. Seeing him, I thought he was absolutely the best part of this sketch in his reactions. Cecily, who was playing Brooke Baldwin, was just so annoyed with him throughout this. And that layer in the sketch really made it for me beyond just like laughing at like, okay, now he's a meerkat. You know, like it's not like that doesn't work for me. It felt very like kids sketch comedy in a way. Ajax, how did this play for you?
Much better the second time. Like I remember when I watched it live, I'm just like, it's okay, I guess. But watching it back, I loved it, and I think it's just because it's more of like a time capsule, holding in place. That's the Snapchat era. So yeah, and again, I agree with you guys. Beck stole the show here. I 100% agree. And yeah, his back and forth with Cecily was so funny.
Bill, I also feel like they did this once during the at-home shows as well when they were looking for a piece to put in there. There was a sequel to this, but this one, it was good. It was a weird one to start the night with. I felt like in a night full of epic sketches, this one was weird, like weirdly ordered, and took away from the episode for me a touch. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's almost prescient in the fact that, about a year after this, we're going to get COVID and all those Zoom meetings and lawyers turning themselves into cats by mistake and things like that. So watching this now, all these years later, it's funnier to me than it was that night. But, and Sandler doesn't have a lot to do here other than kind of trot out a version of his Iraqi Pete. So yeah, it's really interesting to see. I mean, Mikey's being Mikey. I'll agree with everybody else. Beck is fantastic in this as the so-called expert on the panel. And it's definitely funnier in hindsight, knowing what we were about to go through in just about a year.
Yeah, I feel like I see it from the producer perspective of like, well, we're going to have more people watching. There's probably going to be younger people watching. So maybe this plays well for them with all the Snapchat filters to put this earlier on. But just in terms of quality, I do feel like the quality of the show will rise a lot more in a couple of segments. So I may have reordered it in a way. Otherwise, it felt, I didn't have the grand, nature that I felt like some of this episode had later on. So we'll move over to a Beck and Kyle pre-tape, which is a music video for a song called Holes, where they're singing about how their clothes are just holes, which are public holes to cover up their private holes. We'll end up getting Sandler as sort of this Slash type guitarist who will come in here later. But a little bit of a different format for the Beck and Kyle pre-tape than what we were getting from them earlier on in their career, Bill.
Yeah, this is a very strange one for me. One that completely had fallen out of my brain as far as memories go. I mean,
You say it
back
had
in
a hole in your brain.
It absolutely did. Everybody's got those holes, and I had a hole in my brain. Yeah, can we get inside those holes? Is probably the funniest line that we get here. But again, not a whole lot for Sandler to do. I said exactly as you said, John. I had written down Sandler as a slash-like guitarist. Like that's, you're starting to get a little nervous. I think at this point, if you're watching this in real time, like, okay, great monologue, Sandler's back, but these first two pieces that we get after this, he's not doing a whole lot. So, but obviously we're going to get that taken care of very shortly. But this feels very strange. Again, placement is a little off here.
Look, to me, I think that the first 4 segments are arguably the worst 4 segments of this episode. And that's like really tough because I do agree with you, Ajax, that this is one of the greatest episodes of all time, just in terms of like its context and some of the segments we're going to talk about in a bit. But the start for me is underwhelming. And that includes this, which is an okay concept and kind of a funny sketch, but nothing absolutely epic like it should be with having Sandler in the building. Ajax, what do you think?
Sorry. I thought this was great. This is one of those that did grow on me over the years, though, and I completely forgot that Sandman was even in it at the end because I forgot what episode it came from. Because this is one I rewatch a lot, and I guess I just don't get to the Sandler part because I just love the first part of it. But the line, "Even Andy Warhol wore holes to cover up his Andy Warhols," that's just brilliance, right there. That line is just. I mean, it's so silly and ridiculous, the whole thing, but that's why I love it. I mean, it's just that absurdist humor that we get from Beck and Kyle. It's just, I love this thing. It's so funny.
Fred, are you more with Ajax or are you more with me on this one?
I'm much more with you on this one, but I'm glad Ajax likes it. It's one of the rare times where I was like, I would have been okay with Adam Sandler not being in it so that it could end sooner. Because I thought the song went a little long. Like, it's a pretty funny concept, but I don't know. I don't know why I'm not into holes the same way.
I think that this almost felt like a bit of a Lonely Island concept, which is interesting because, like, I think they would have done it more like the Threw It on the Ground guy, like, which was the last week podcast that Lonely Island Seth Meyers did. Like, I almost felt like the characters in this music video, if I'm going to be a little bit over analytic about it, were confusing. Like, I didn't understand what the characters being the way they were had anything to do with what they were singing about. And I think that Beck and Kyle just sort of like that, like, weird aesthetic of like the dry and weird humor. So if that plays for you, then this totally works. There just wasn't something here that I felt like totally like I saw the thread all the way, even though it was a funny idea, almost funnier on paper than what I saw in execution. Something I really love, though, is the next sketch. I can't wait to talk about this one. The Romano Tours. I forgot how much I like this until I rewatched it, which is Sandler as, your commercial spokesman, which is really a great role for him. Like, you think about the history of Saturday Night Live littered with amazing pitchmen, back in the days of Aykroyd to Phil to Bill Hader. Like, there's so many great ones. And I just never think of Sandler as that type of guy. I know that he did, there were sketches where he sold stuff but never just like direct to camera alone the way that I saw this. And as soon as he goes out there and just starts pitching the Romano Tours to Italy and says, if you're sad now, I just want you to be prepared that you're still going to be sad when you go on this trip. I was like, this is absolutely genius. And they went on just right enough and gave enough examples that I thought there was so much brilliance in doing a commercial for a vacation that though people are constantly being told this vacation will change your life, it won't actually do that, yet you should still go. Ajax, did you love this one as much as I did?
100%. I mean, you said it. The line, if you're sad now, you might still feel sad there, okay? And it's just that like reassurance that hit the nail on the head. Like, you got to know that they've experienced this before, and they want to make sure that everybody knows that what they're getting into. Oh, I love it. And then there's a turn though that you realize once he starts bringing this topic to the forefront, that's what the sketch is ultimately about. because there's some funny lines before that, like "See Vienna, the city of wetness." But once they get into the topic of what the sketch is actually about, it's so good, so well done. I love it.
I love it, and they do all the like reasons why you should go, and then they're like, "Well, you can drink, but we can't change why you drink." Just like I think the commercial actors here being so like over the top and cheesy, in terms of like the way that they were performing was also really great and fit the aesthetic of this. Bill, I just love Romana Tours.
Yeah, if Hank and Beverly Gelfand had a child and they changed their last name to Romano, this would be it, right? This was so interesting to see the way Adam played this, with both of what you've already said, and then we can take you on a hike, but that cannot make you like hiking. A day is a long time to be happy. Most of us get 45 minutes. I feel like I should have that on the wall somewhere. Like that this is really. And it speaks to people going on vacation. Like they think they're going to solve things. And they're not, they're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars sometimes to go to Italy or something like that. And they're still going to be the asshole that they are. They're still going to be really sad or hate their wife or hate their husband. And there you are. So I would love this truth in advertising in real life.
Yeah, it really, like, as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh my God, this is one of my favorite sketches, if not my favorite sketch of the season. It was an Anna Dresden and Allison Gates sketch, and I was like, whoa, this is so good. I thought it was brilliant, and Sandler performed the hell out of it. Fred, your thoughts on Romano Tours?
I also just love the fact that it's really just him. It kind of reminded me of like an older era SNL sketch where it's just like all you need, like you don't need 100 Game of Thrones characters. You just need one person, something like tightly written. There's like a darkness to it. There's a social commentary to it. It's a pretty perfect sketch in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. And next, we're going to head over to the Sandler family reunion sketch. Is probably the most memorable sketch of the episode for a lot of people. Back in 2008, we had Christopher Walken hosting the show for the final time, and he did his very famous family reunion sketch. And then later on, Jim Carrey would have his. And I believe Stephen Castillo, Streeter, and Mikey all borrowed the concept here for Sandler, where we're going to have different cast members perform characters from Sandler's movies as he walks around, and they're so happy to have Adam finally at one of their family reunions. We'll get appearances from Jimmy Fallon and Kristen Wiig there as well. And it's just a big party to celebrate Adam Sandler. I love this. I always love the concept. I find this is just a really, really fun junk foodie type sketch you can get in the show. Bill, this is actually what I really wish they would have started the night with. I think that this would have set us off on a great path, but overall, love this segment.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of people you could do this with. I think it works better with Walken. A little bit of diminishing with Carrey and Sandler because, nobody's impersonating Little Nicky. Like everybody's doing Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore. So even though Pete does a very good job doing Little Nicky here, and the fact that they don't really have anybody doing Happy Gilmore, like they bring Leslie out, who does a great Chubbs. It is really good in that role. But I think my favorite part is Keenan. Like, oh, you're all doing that invisible clarinet thing. Well, okay, here you go, skibbity bop. So I mean, it's fun to see as somebody who's watched all of his movies, including stuff like Jack and Jill and terrible stuff like that. It is fun to see these characters brought back to life and kind of being thrown in Adam's face a little bit. So this is good and certainly something that you're right, should have let off the night.
Yeah, thanks to Jack in the chat who points out Kyle also writing this sketch, who they both are very involved with the start of the sketch as well. Ajax, I think my favorite part may have been Melissa Villaseñor, who just was a killer impressionist in her time of the show, but truly crushed it in this sketch as well.
100. Were you reading my mind or something, John? Come on now.
Yeah,
like,
must be.
Yeah. It must be, right? Hey. So yeah, I mean, my goodness, Melissa is just so underrated. Like we just don't. I mean, we talk about her a lot. Everybody talks about her on the network here, but I mean, what more can you say? Like even just the acting. Are you sure about that? In the Waterboy voice, the Bobby Boucher. Yeah, she was a standout for me as well. I love this sketch. I do agree with you that it should have led off the night. I do agree with that part, though. Yes.
It's really, really great. Fred, how do you feel about the Sandler family reunion?
Especially after in his monologue, right? He mentions about like how he's made like X billions of dollars after the show. So it's like perfect to kind of like I mean, it's still pretty top of mind, but yeah, like it would have been a pretty perfect segue too, to be like, okay, like this is what I made billions of dollars off of, like these ridiculous characters.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm designing the
Yeah.
show, I'm having him walk off home base and walk into the sketch because he's playing himself in the sketch.
Right.
So that's like the way you do it to make it more fun. Is he walks right over. I guess you would have, Pete doesn't have to change that much for this. I mean, he's in the monologue in both, but like, there's nothing like logistically to me that I could see overtly preventing that from happening. So I think that would have made a huge difference in this episode. But overall, a really fun family reunion sketch. Which then, go ahead, Bill.
And let's not forget 2 random cameos from 2 SNL alum and Jimmy and Kristen here. No, they're all going to laugh at you.
Yes. Kristen, absolutely hilarious always to me. But Jimmy, I know, like, again, we talked about this kind of many times, not everybody's favorite, but I do also like the, Jimmy Fallon, Adam Sandler being on SNL at the same time, knowing that Jimmy auditioned with his Sandler, and that makes it here into this sketch that also really adds to this one. Okay, let's talk about this next sketch, which is an underrated classic that I've brought up a few times over the years that nobody talks about. So speaking of holes, let's talk about Rectix, which is a erectile dysfunction pill that Beck Bennett talks with Adam Sandler about, who has been recently using to help with his ED, but it's actually a butt plug. And he cannot get that through his head, where the mom, Maureen, played by 80, is just has convinced her husband to use this, and just the back and forth and the line writing in this is so hilarious to me. It's very silly humor. It's one of those things that, like, it could verge on being too much, but I just think it hits all of the right notes. Bill, I love Rectix.
Yes, you love Rectix, huh, John? You recommend this product? Is this going to be next sponsor on the SNN?
It's what's gotten into me.
Your mother said, let's try something. So it vibrates too. Like, oh my goodness. And the graphics are up there with some of the better pre-tape commercials that we've gotten over the last 25 years, as they show this huge ass pill, which is clearly not a pill, but a butt plug. What's gotten into you? Oh, it's Rectix, John.
It's great. It's one of my favorite Michael Che written sketches of all time. You can see the Che writing in this in a way, but there's just like a lot of great beats that they hit that I don't always see in some of the sketches from this era, including they do a thing which, like, every time I see it makes me laugh out loud so hard, which is Heidi Gardner walking out with a glass of lemonade after that they were told that you could put it in the dishwasher, and Beck just like slaps it out of her hand. I was like, don't put your mouth on that. It's an all-time, like, it's the way they edited it was so great. Fred, do you enjoy Rectix?
That physical humor is so good. And the other thing that it made me think of is Beck Bennett is so good. Like, he's so good at playing the son here, but he could easily have been in Adam Sandler's role too. Like, that's also like a role I feel like Beck could fill. And it just like shows like how good he is. But I didn't know Che wrote this, because I knew some of Adam Sandler's like peers came back to help with this episode, and for some reason I thought maybe they wrote that, because it reminded me of like this older era kind of commercial sketch. So that's good to know that it was Che. But yeah, no, I liked Rectix for sure. This one
and
works.
It's so funny to me because, like, knowing that Che wrote this, I do wonder like how long he had this idea. I think that's like one of those questions that maybe I'll try and ask him one day. Was he like saving it for Sandler, knowing that he was coming? Because it's not like Sandler related, but he just does it. Like, he obviously can do many things. So this works really well. It just so happened that they got this into an episode with an amazing host, and everything came together here, Ajax. So really great stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when you said Che, it makes perfect sense that he wrote this now. But I mean, it's hilarious. So I mean, he killed it. And yeah, you mentioned 80 briefly. 80's expressions. She has such great facial expressions. I mean, she can go from like a dramatic pause to just like that little slight bit of humor that kind of ekes out, and you can kind of feel it through the screen. She was great too. Everybody in this was perfect. So yeah, great pre-taper.
Yeah, I think it was also great because they so quickly established the dynamic between the family about how like the comforting aspect between the husband and the wife and the father like wanting to help his son who was like, oh, if you're having a problem, like I want to be there for you, son. So here, take my pill. And just the visuals that uh that Beck's face was making, like along with Bill, what you said, like the structure of the man that they were showing in that visual as they inserted the rectix and you get the smiling face. There's a lot of things about this that are great. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch this one. It is a classic and continues a run of really, really strong segments. Then we have Shawn Mendes performing music, who will perform If I Can't Have You and In My Blood. Some pretty strong performances here from Shawn Mendes, one of the most popular artists at the time and still a really young, great one. So good stuff here on Weekend Update. We're going to get Kate as Elizabeth Warren, who is getting ready for 2020 campaign here in May of 2019, talking about if, Biden's going to run and all the stuff leading up to that. But I think like the big moment that a lot of people were wondering was, will we finally get Opera Man back on a regular episode of Saturday Night Live? The last episode prior to this that we saw him on canonically was the Deion Sanders episode back in season 20. So it had been that long. He does perform it in the musical montage at SNL 40, but still not the same as getting to see Sandler back at the desk properly performing Opera Man. Bill, this is so great.
And funny enough, Deion Sanders episode coming up at number 11 here. No spoilers. So crazy to think about that we're going to have these back to back. I mean, this was what I wanted the most. The wish list in my head of characters that Sandler would do. He's obviously not going to bring out his Halloween costumes in May and things like that. I wanted Opera Man, always the highlight of any SNL in this era for me. To see him at the desk and talking about Fergie's nipples and Madonna and things like that. So to see it in a modern contextualization, talking about Game of Thrones and Bill Barr disappearing and things like that. And so very long since I've been around, 24 years and 24 pounds. So just it warms my heart to have him back at the desk.
It does. I always love these moments where we get characters from other eras appearing now. It is just so cool to like see that the last time he did this, even Kevin Nealon was at the update desk or Norm Macdonald was at the update. Like it's really weird to just get that and then see him in a Jostin Che era sketch or segment. It is just bizarre, but so great and really like filled my cup that night. Fred, how was seeing Opera Man for you?
It was so good to see. And honestly, obviously it's been 24 years, but like basically looks the same once he's in that Opera Man costume. Did Adam Sandler write? Is this his own character? Like, did he create this? Do we know?
I think he did it with Tim Herlihy, who was his writing partner at the time, and Steve Coren helped him a little bit. I think Smigel maybe as well. So those were the guys.
Cool. Yeah. No, it was great to see. It was perfect.
Yeah, a lot of them, like he had a lot of help with the musical moments that he had on Update, but he was obviously very much involved in what we got here. Opera Man, a little bit different than, him performing the Hanukkah song, which I guess is like more him. And this is more, trying to find the stories of today and telling them through the operatic voice of Opera Man. So, good stuff. Ajax, how did it feel for you to get Opera Man back at the desk?
It was just nostalgic trip. I mean, I always loved Opera Man at the update desk. I especially love the Joe Biden line set to "Hello Mutta, Hello Fata," the "Gropa Gropa, Sneefa Sneefa" with the pictures in the back. just so wrong, but so funny at the same time. I love it. So goofy.
So good. We get a last call sketch right after Update, which typically you would see at the end of the night. We'll see in a moment why this isn't the last sketch of the night. But this is a trio here where we get Kate McKinnon's Sheila Sauvage alongside Kristen Wiig, who always really fun to see these two together, just the dominant performers of their era, who is Melba Letzman Toast, the wife of Bernie Letzman, played by Adam Sandler. And, I think at the time, look, I'm a big defender of the last call sketches. I think they were running on fumes a little bit and they were looking for new ideas to make them as exciting as possible. This is the last one that we've gotten since This last one we've gotten period until today, and you do see that the bar gets lit on fire. So I wonder if that's why I decided to never bring it back after this. But just a really interesting combo or trio of cast members together in a sketch, all making out with each other. Bill.
Yeah, this makes sense to have it end here, to have these three icons of SNL come together from three different eras. Probably my favorite line in any of the last calls ever, when they're talking about positions and they want to do a 7-Eleven, and we get in bed and roll around like old hot dogs. So that's a good way to go out. Keenan with the dynamite in the garage door, Lady in the Tramping It. Like it's just. Yeah, I'm with you, John. We talked about this with the Larry David episode a few weeks ago. These always hit for me in a very snacky kind of way, a junk food kind of way. They're not great, they're not terrible, and to see these three together is fantastic.
Yeah, I think that you almost, in order to enjoy these, you almost have to be grossed out along with the bartender played by Keenan. And I think we've probably seen everything we could possibly see from these characters. It was fun in a meta way to have these three together, Ajax, but the sketch itself to me was okay.
They're kind of like a guilty pleasure. They're all, I mean, I wouldn't say they're as strong as the Bill Braskis, but I would categorize them kind of in the same, where, you're never going to lead off with it, but you would also not hate seeing it at the same time. My favorite one was probably the Louis C.K. one. I think that was the strongest one in my memory, but I love Keenan too. It's almost like they threw all the ideas that they saved that didn't make it on from the last recurring, like his garage door roll down prop. When he didn't want to see him, that thing was hilarious. And I'm like, where did that come from? And then at the end, he's got the accordion, then the mustache, and then drones start coming. It's like they threw everything on the wall at the end. But yeah, they're fun. They're not the greatest things in the world, but they're fun to watch.
Fred, how do you feel about the last call sketches?
So I actually really like them, except I feel like I'm like no fun Fred tonight, except for all this Keenan stuff on the side. Personally, like I kind of like how it's like creepy and kind of straightforward, but then when things get a little kooky, it kind of takes me out, because it's actually a pretty grounded sketch if you think about it. I don't know why that takes me out of it, but I love Kate, and I like all of these, and I agree with Ajax on I think the Louis C.K. one is probably my favorite. I'd have to think about it, but that one stands out.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. There's been times in these sketches where he like blinds himself and is like, I can't watch this anymore, and finds ways to shut himself out of what's happening in front of him that I think work for the sketch. But I wonder if towards the end of the run of these sketches, they almost go to Keenan too much as a crutch because they're just running out of notes to hit. And they're like, okay, let's go back to him again before we come back to the bar. So I do agree with you. I think there probably was a healthier balance of the way they involved Keenan in these sketches. So interesting thought experiment there. Let's talk about the final segment of the night. This was something that I think people who had been following Sandler's tour at the time were wondering if we might get on Saturday Night Live, which is him performing Home Base. You're going to get something special here. He's singing about somebody at Saturday Night Live, and it is revealed that he's singing about his friend Chris Farley in a very, very emotional segment. You really you can't watch this without getting emotional and your eyes watering up as he sings about his time. And we get this TV next to him showing Chris and all of his times at the show, and even times like off at the show, some new footage that I think a lot of people hadn't seen before. But if you hadn't seen this or hadn't heard Sandler perform it on his tour, I think this was maybe one of the greatest moments in SNL history, just getting to see someone honor their friend that way, because a lot of those types of things had been done in sketch context, but this was almost like an anniversary show moment, similar to what he did at the 50th. And I thought this was a really special moment, Ajax. So how do you feel about the Chris Farley song?
I mean, I'm already just thinking about it. Like the tears are getting ready to go. I mean, it's just wow. That was very well said. It was anniversary moment for me. I mean, and the first time I heard it, I think he put out the album of the tour, one of the tour spots prior to this, because I heard it driving to work, and I had to pull over and compose myself to go into work that morning. That's what I remember. And then when he was on, I'm like, well, he's probably not going to do it, but he might. And then when I just saw him on stage, the flash moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to do the song. Oh my gosh. So just watching it live and seeing it, that and then going back to it. I mean, there's never a moment where it just doesn't make me want to sob like a baby. It's just so good.
It's so good. Dan Bulla helped put this together, and then he wasn't working at the show at the time, but he would end up being hired, and now he's currently a writer there at the show. But yeah, just a super emotional moment here, Fred, to see Sandler honor his friend.
Yeah, and you forget also how personal it is to Chris too. Like it kind of goes more into like who he was as a person, his relationship with his father. Like I had forgotten about that until the rewatch. So like that really like hits the spot for sure. No, I thought this was a great note to end on after like a pretty awesome episode.
Yeah, and we just covered it in the Everything You Need to Know About SNL season 23 video that we put out a couple of weeks ago. But, when Farley, you get to see Farley host and he's not in a great place, he's going to end up passing a few months later. And this is going to happen pretty much between the Christmas holiday break. And they will do an episode where, you're going to get the best of Chris Farley and moments to honor him. But it's in a special... It's not really talked about too much on screen what happens except for an anniversary special. So this is like a really poignant moment for the show, and one that I'm really happy that Lorne worked with Sandler and had him do here to end the night. So Bill, one of the most special moments I think we've had in SNL history here.
Yeah, I mean, the only one that I could think of that you would even put close to this would be Steve talking about Gilda the night that she passed. But if you're of a certain age, like, obviously Gilda and Belushi dying was very, very sad, very young, both of them. I'm of an age growing up with these guys. This was the end of the innocence for me and friends of mine, because these were people we grew up on. I was still in college and we had watched that Farley episode all together. We were so excited to see him back in the building. I think the episode is a little bit better than people kind of remember it. It's kind of taken a life of its own as far as how bad a shape he was in. So yeah, I mean, having him die just a couple months after that, knowing how close him and Sandler and Spade and Rock were, and Timmy Meadows, and to have this platform. Adam Sandler is one of the biggest names in the world, one of the biggest comedy names in the world. To be able to have this 5 minutes on SNL, to be able to do a song like this, to show respect for a guy who would have been making Grown Ups 3 and Grown Ups 2 and Grown Ups 1 with all of his friends, and to think about where Farley would be today, making movies with these guys, is such a sad, bittersweet thing. And I love it. Yeah. And as Ajax says, I mean, I watched it 3 times this week and I tear up every time.
I totally agree. And there's something really special, I have to say, about watching Saturday Night Live through in chronological order, and you get to these moments in history where things feel really fulfilling because you've seen everything that's happened before, but your brain can't help play the what if game of like, what if this person was still around? Like, that on May 4th, 2019, if Chris Farley was still alive, he would have been there. He would have been in this episode. And I think that you can't help but watch this episode and start to ponder about, like, how would have a Chris Farley in 2019 played with an Adam Sandler here? So in a way, I do love that it feels like he was somewhat a part of this episode. It feels very fitting. So to me, that adds to the special feeling of the night and solidifies it as one of the greatest episodes of all time. Overall, I feel really good about this one. I think it is slightly high at 12. I don't want to take away from any of the special moments. I think it's easily slam dunk top 25 of all time for me. I don't know if it's like in the pantheon. Like, I think we're headed towards there right now. Top 10, top 12 episodes. Like, it's slightly high, but still so many great moments here. So I'm at the point now where it's tough to say anything bad about these, but truly, I think this is a really great episode to talk about. Bill, how would you like to wrap this one up?
Yeah, I feel like this might be just slightly high, and it's hard to take my bias and my love for this man out of it, and the anticipation, as we've already talked about, having him come back after all this time. Somebody who probably should have hosted 3 or 4 times at this point in 2019. But yes, I mean, there are some discrepancies with some of the earlier stuff in the evening, but overall, from Romano Tours through the rest of the episode, just incredible work that we see here, full of nostalgia, full of new characters, just what we want from an alumni hosted episode and somebody of Sandler's caliber, and to end the night as we did in a way that really no SNL has ever ended a show. Just definitely up here. I would say probably top 15, but I'm perfectly fine with 12 here.
That's a great commentary. Yeah, I'm starting to. I'm somewhere between where I was before and you, the way they were talking about it. So I'm going to continue to think this through. I want to get Ajax and Fred's final opinions on this one. So Ajax, please go ahead.
Yeah, I liked it a lot better on the rewatch, and for me, yeah, impossible for me to remove my bias from it. So, yeah, I mean, it's just I did forget Holes was on here. It's just my sensibility, my style of humor. But yeah, I get the placement issues. I understand what you guys were saying. I totally understand that, but I think it set it up even better. So I don't know if I would have even liked it more if it didn't go the opposite way. All too often we have SNL episodes where it just bottom just drops off after update, and to keep the ball rolling and to keep it going to end on such a high personal note, it's definitely an all-timer for me. So I love it here. I would have, after watching it, I'm like, well, maybe 8, 7 even, like that's where I'm thinking. That's kind of where my mind is.
I would totally agree with you. If Romano Tours kicked off this episode and we're going through all the way to the end, I think you're talking about top 10 episode of all time. It's hard for me to look past some of that stuff at the beginning. Fred, where do you land on this one?
I think it's a little high, but I agree with the sentiment that top 25, top 20. It's just the unevenness of it. I felt that, but it's also really impressive to end on such a strong second half. It is pretty uncommon that the second half is so much better. I feel like on this show, we always we do the hot take shows, and it's always the first half that's a little stronger, I think, if I remember correctly. So that's pretty nice to end on. But yeah, in the beginning, I remember being oh, I thought I liked this a tiny bit more. And then I remembered why I like it by the end.
Yeah, so great stuff here from Adam Sandler hosting. And I think we can all agree we would love Adam Sandler to host again. I think it would be so great. Yeah. So hopefully we get to see that. I did say that to him when I saw him on the carpet at the 50th. And I said, I'm like, we're all waiting. So hopefully that will happen sometime soon. All right, let's move to number 11, the final spot here before we get into the top 10 episodes of all time. This is an episode that is by far one of my favorite of all time, has probably one of my favorite sketches of all time, and I think some classic moments. So we're going to head towards the holidays. Once again, it's Christmas time because Justin Timberlake is coming to host the number 11 episode from December of 2006, season 32, episode 9, the very famous Dick in a Box episode, as he is here hosting Saturday Night Live for the second time. So JT's come up a couple times on the countdown so far. It's been a while since we got to talk about him, more towards the beginning of the countdown, but this is the one I think most people felt was definitely going to be on here, Bill Kenny.
Yeah, and we know why this is here, although there is some really, really, really great stuff besides that epic thing that we're going to talk about here. There is a problematic sketch in this one, I gotta say. But other than that, probably JT's best episode. So it kind of makes sense. Probably a little high for my taste, but we'll talk through it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I definitely go back and forth between his first one and this one being two of the best. Which one is the best? But this one, I just remember watching it live, being absolutely enthralled with what I was seeing. There was just so many great moments here to talk about. I can't wait to get into it. So Ajax, let's get your overall thoughts on Justin Timberlake's episode here at 11.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one right here. You got him in his prime. You see the star in his playground. He is where he should be. He is part of the legacy of Saturday Night Live for a reason. He's a born performer, and I don't love his music, but I love his performances of his songs. And as far as his comedy, I mean, it's second to none. He could be an SNL cast member. I mean, he could be in comedies. He's got a few dramatic roles out there floating around, but I think he could be in a comedy, a starring role. So that would be kind of cool to see him in a movie or something around this time. But yeah, I mean, I thought this whole episode, another one, with the exception of one or two, really, really great all the way through.
And I always felt like this episode was a perfect storm. You have Justin Timberlake, who had hosted back in 2003. There was no expectation for if he was going to be a good SNL host or not. In fact, I think most SNL fans were really not looking forward to the time that he hosted that show. And he just crushed the expectations out of the water. And now you get him to finally come back to the show here at a time where in the middle of season 32, things are just hitting on all cylinders. I've talked about this being my favorite season. I felt like, Seth taking over the show, his vision, things were getting a lot more creative and fun. I felt like the cast was just like pared down in a way where everyone had highlights episode to episode. And JT being here for Christmas, like it just felt so special to me, Fred, to get to see him host this episode.
Yeah, I love this episode. And I mean, just like a quick side note, I mean, JT's pretty darn funny in The Social Network. But yeah, I guess like he could be in more comedies that are not rom-coms. I'd like to see those comedy chops. But no, I think this is great. I mean, I have very few criticisms of this. There's like maybe one or two things that like I thought were not the funniest, but I think all around this was like a really great episode. And I think it well deserves this spot, if not higher, for me.
Yeah, and we have to talk here first, of course, about Dick in a Box. No doubt, because this is what a lot of people do consider the greatest digital short in the history of the show. The music video where we have the Dick in a Box guys introduce themselves to the world with their girlfriends who, they're there for the holidays and they have one thing that they got to give to them. And I've seen this music video, I kid you not, thousands of times. Like I've seen it so many times that for me, I could see it in my eyes like when I close them. So I don't know how much more I can say about it besides the fact that like trying to transform to the time where I watched it for the first time and the first reveal was made to me about what was happening. And I think you can only get that when you hear the audience go absolutely insanely crazy. Like it's one of the loudest reactions you'll ever hear on SNL as it is revealed. And the song is so brilliant. The lyrics are so great. Andy is just like, we had Lazy Sunday. We had some great ones before this. But this is the moment where I just feel like they truly went mainstream. And Bill, just one of the greatest moments in the history of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I think the best audience reaction in the history of the show. I will put that out there. Obviously when we get cameos sometimes and the audience goes nuts and the applause lines, just the audible gasp and then followed by this immediate swell of laughter that they can't believe this is happening, that this is being put on national television. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this so much in various forms on the podcast. It's an all-time sketch. It's an all-time pre-tape. The look right from the start of it, is someone who grew up in the 90s and seeing that kind of like color me bad, look to both of these guys and to get to the reveal. I mean, the music is great too, that kind of R&B vibe that's kind of playing underneath them. Kristen and Maya are so great here. The feather in Kristen's face, that's obviously signifying something. It's just top to bottom, one of the best moments in the show's history.
It's so good. And Andy, Norman, and Kiva talked about this story a lot about how they wanted to write something with Justin. And it was through the process of coming up with this and Justin teaching them properly how to make music that it led into everything else that was going to happen with them. So like all of the lessons that came into this, like this doesn't happen without Justin Timberlake's involvement. And it really is a perfect storm of like these new stars who are making their way on the show that everyone's excited about, their young up and coming comedy. YouTube being established the year prior, where you have something like living in the shadow, imagine, of Lazy Sunday. It's like last Christmas they did this. Can they even like think about topping it? And in a way they did. And that to me is so crazy in itself. So Fred, what were your thoughts on seeing Dick in a Box once again in this episode?
I mean, it was like a phenomenon when it came out. I mean, everyone was dressed up as those two. Like you said, just like everyone was sharing this. Like I remember I was, like a freshman in college, and it was just like a huge deal. Or actually, what year is this? No, I was not in college yet, but soon, in a year. And it was just like a huge deal. Like everyone was dressed up like it. And I mean, I had never seen anything quite like this. So it was pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I was 13, so you better believe I was
Yeah.
running around
Yeah.
singing this song to everybody I knew. And even I said this a few weeks ago, but at my wedding earlier this summer, I did perform Dick in a Box. And this was
I'm sure your
it was
parents love that.
yeah, it was they had already left.
Okay.
But it was we were having some fun. It was just to me, like I said, like one of my favorite songs, bar none, of all time, like let alone SNL songs. And I just think this is such a great moment. Ajax, how did it work for you?
Yeah, I mean, this was the age of raunch. You got the Wedding Crashers. This is right, I think, right on the cusp of Hangovers. You got the Apatow movie. So, I mean, you know that this was perfect placement, and to see something like this on SNL too. I mean, it was unexpected for the audience. It was unexpected for every one of us too. So to see it just come to life, I would love to have seen the audience's reaction lined up with with the actual pre-tape itself. But my goodness, it's such a classic. It's so well done. And then the episode of the podcast, the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast, is can't miss. I mean, if anyone out there has not listened to that yet, because they go step by step with the fact that this was made in like a couple days. They didn't have an idea. Lorne kept pushing them to come up with something, and and magic happened. It was just awesome. Everything about this, them on the basketball courts with the boxes, the dance, and just that, the whole thing. And it's so short. It's not really that long. It doesn't wear out its welcome. It's perfectly timed. It's just a perfect song. And you can see why this thing got as big as it did.
And also, like,
Yeah.
Seth talking about, like, on the podcast, like, about the episode itself, like the other sketches too. Like, it really adds to it because it is like banger after banger.
It is. There's a lot of great stuff here, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I mean, Lazy Sunday had a huge influence on me, but this one as well, where literally throughout my entire high school experience, whenever there was an opportunity for a group project, I always asked the teacher if I could make a music video, and it was just based on the fact that, like, oh, we could just go to the basketball courts and just sing and dance, and just like there was just something about that I think totally worked. That even though the concept itself was so far-fetched, it almost was relatable in a way of like, okay, we could sing about nonsense, but as long as it sounds good and it's fun and everyone's having a good time, there's something great there. Of course, they would end up being arrested at the end, and it would go on to Mother Lover and Three Way and all of that. That would end up making this even more epic, but truly one of the most classic SNL sketches of all time. And I just want to say, we'll talk about it in a bit, but if you think that the reveal of Dick in a Box is loud, I would say maybe the second loudest moment in the history of the show is the start of the Barry Gibb talk show, because coming out, I challenge anybody to go back and watch the live version of this episode. Coming out of Dick in a Box into the reveal of Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake singing what I think is like the most great talk show theme song in SNL history, but them just like going, here we are, and it is just the loudest I've ever heard SNL. And I think it's just like one of those moments that every time I hear it, I get goosebumps. So that's something that I think like cannot be replaced in this episode. Let's head back to the beginning though, and we'll get back to this point right in the middle of the episode, where we will kick off a very Christmassy cold open that I would equate to something you would see in the 70s with SNL. Again, we have a pared down cast here, so it's almost like you got like a Gilda, Lorraine, and Jane in Amy, Kristen, and Maya, who are, lighting, decorating the tree and singing Santa's My Boyfriend. This is the cold open that was used, and I believe maybe still is, for many years as the Christmas compilation cold open, as it is such a classic. And I love this one so much. It's so wholesome. It's so funny. And it is so what, to me, Saturday Night Live is about, where it just like hits that perfect line of like emotional and like makes you happy with those funny moments of like his bitch of a wife talking about stuff like that. Like, still a great cold open to go back and revisit.
Yeah, and it is still used as the cold open for all the specials. It kind of replaced Chevy as Gerald's Christmas at the White House. So this makes a lot more sense. This is much more in the Christmas tone. It's funny to see Kristen and Amy work together. I know they overlap for a couple of years, but like you think of them in different eras. In my head, I do, at least. So I don't think of them as much together. I know they did other stuff, but it is interesting to see them kind of playing themselves. And they're also great in here. They're great singers. it's something that I've probably seen 1,000 times because of the fact that it still leads off holiday specials. So yeah, this is a great one.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought experiment as well, because really Amy is very dominant prior to Kristen joining the show, and Kristen will be very dominant after Amy leaves the show. But there is that short period of a couple years where they're together on the show. And I think that is part of the magic of this era, is like you get some all-time great performers working together. Ajax, how do you feel about Santa's My Boyfriend?
I mean, it's perfect. It sets the tone. It's short and sweet. The three of them have just perfect chemistry. And I mean, I just love seeing Amy, Maya, and Kristen. I mean, those are three heavy hitters starting off this Christmas episode. So, I mean, yeah, it just sets the tone for the whole thing. It's 2.5 minutes long. I mean, why can't we get more cold opens like that nowadays, huh?
Yeah, and it's really beautiful the way they sing Live from New York at Saturday night. There's nothing like it to me, Fred.
No, I agree. I mean, they're so incredible, and it's like short and sweet. It's very Christmassy. It's like perfect. It's like it's just an easy concept done well because they're just so talented.
Yeah, great stuff here to kick off this episode, which will head in towards Justin Timberlake's monologue, where he's going to do his famous Chipmunk song, the Christmas song, but not that Christmas song, the one by Alvin and the Chipmunks, played by Andy, Fred, and Bill. And as soon as you're watching this, you're like, oh my God, so many good cast members. But the way they're performing, the way that they change their voices, Bill Hader's so great in this one. It is a really fun Christmas monologue. I know JT's going to go on to have some like really epic monologues where he goes around the studio, and those are sort of end up being the favorites for a lot of Justin Timberlake fans. But this one I've always really liked as well, Fred.
Yeah, totally. I mean, again, like it's just like it shows some of the cast in an alternative sort of way. He's not singing so well. Like he's not singing a Christmas song where it's about like, oh, like he's so talented. It's just more, picking something silly and like letting everyone have fun. Yeah, I like this intro or this monologue.
Ajax, do you like this one?
I love it. I mean, it gets right to the point. Hader is Alvin. I mean, just kills it. Like the best part of it, I think, that's the standout of this monologue. But yeah, another like almost like 2.5, 3 minutes long. Like it gets right to the point, sets up the show. Boom! It's a Christmas episode, gets you all in the feels, and you're ready to see that first sketch. It's so good.
Yeah, and speaking of that first sketch, we're going to go to a Vil sketch. So we have talked about other ones that we've seen before, and we're always saying how, maybe they're not as good without Will Forte. Well, this one has Will Forte in it, opposite of Justin Timberlake. It is the Homelessville sketch, where, what is even that charity, Homelessville, as Timberlake singing in the soup costume. And yeah, I mean, like these all feel very similar to each other, but there is something about this one that I think is the best of them. I just think the energy is there, the way that Timberlake's dancing and singing and taking over. And when he had done this in 2003 with Chris Parnell, it was like really, okay, like this is really cool. It's a great way to use Justin. I don't think anybody thought that they were necessarily going to bring this back again. And when it showed up, I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, this is epic. So Bill, I think this is a great Vil sketch, if not the best.
Probably is. I think his play off of Forte is above stuff like 80 and Parnell. And it's another one that I think we've seen a lot of in compilations over the last 15, 20 years. But yeah, I think the music really works here. Soup, there it is. Drink it like it's hot. Justin's really throwing himself into this more, I think, than he has in any of the other Vils that we get. So this makes a lot of sense, being one of the most epic ones. This is the fourth one we've discussed, John, right?
Yes, that's true. But this is the one that I've been waiting for to talk about. Because like there's moments in this where I think even like the props are falling down. Like not everything's working in this sketch perfectly, but Timberlake is such a pro and he's going all out. Like he's selling this sketch hard. And I just don't think like any of the ones that come after it chronologically should take away from how good this Homelessville sketch is, Ajax. So how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think that's why it works so well. Is there's not so many things to distract you from the focus of Timberlake and Forte. I mean, yeah, don't forget about the Minestrone, the Tootsie Roll parody. Who doesn't love soup-related mini parodies, right? But yeah, I'm a sucker for all these Vils, all of the dancing mascots. I love them. But yeah, I agree. This is the best one for sure.
Fred, do you like this one?
Yeah. And the Minestrone line is incredible. That's like my favorite song of all the songs that they do. And And it's also nice to remember because like Will Forte was on the show for quite some time, and he wasn't always the Will Forte I think we remember him for. Like he plays like the straight man so well. And it's not all about him being like the biggest weirdo. And I think that that's really nice to see him just kind of hold his own and like let Justin shine.
Yeah, that's the thing is like Forte has a lot of range. Like he often gets boxed into being the silly weird guy, but he does have a lot of range and he's really great opposite of Justin in this one. In season 32, Will's going to have a lot of like crazy great sketches that we don't talk enough about. But yeah, this is a really, really solid one. And I just love seeing Will opposite of Justin, two of my favorite people to ever be on the show. We get Target Lady up next. So Kristen Wiig's famous character from the time, and her coworker, Justin Timberlake, is playing, named Marcus, who is kind of a weirdo, puts on chapstick weirds out all of the employees. And it's just super charming stuff from Justin Timberlake. You know, Ajax, we were saying he could easily be a cast member. He shows off his chops here.
Absolutely. I would love to see a Marcus movie. You know, I'm like, I love just so absurd when he goes, I hope a third thing doesn't happen to them. Just the goofy look he gives to the camera. You're like, what? And so obviously foreshadowing because he's allergic to the chapstick. But yeah, when Kristen as Target Lady, whenever she goes, where did you get that? And then she just leaves. I've seen that happen. Like that's a thing that really happens. Like, at Dollar Generals and stuff, and you're just like, what where are you going? Like, what's going on? So it thoroughly relatable. Everyone knows a Target Lady, even if they don't know this, the circumstance or the situation. A Target Lady archetype. So I love it. So good.
Yeah, and I think that it had been like a long time, probably like midway through season 31 since the last time we saw Target Lady on the show. So even though this was the signature character for Kristen when she first came out, we were sort of waiting to see it again, and they brought it back with Justin Bill, and I felt like this was so good.
Yeah, these work better. I mean, they're very paint by number as a rule, but I think they work better when she has somebody to play off of, like Justin. And Ajax says, we know people like the Target Lady. We know people like Justin's character too, right? Have you ever been in a grocery store or a Target or a Walmart and not seen somebody like this who's just kind of creeping you out? But yeah, the third thing happening to his lips still cracks me up, even though I've seen this a whole lot of times. Third of 9 times that we get this, probably a little too much, but this is one of the better installments.
Is this only the third of 9?
Yeah.
Okay, but there'll be 6 more. Okay, because I'm trying to remember, like, is there one I like more? Justin, I feel like Justin's the MVP in this, which is surprising, right? Because Kristen Wiig's always incredible. I agree with Ajax. Like, I would love to see more Marcus. Like he doesn't even have to be at Target. Like there's just something about him, and it's crazy, right? That Target eventually, I don't know if like this paints Target in a good light, but eventually they use Kristen Wiig in a Target commercial, like last year or 2 years ago, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I'm a big fan of this one, and Justin's great in this.
I think a lot of people remember Justin's season 34 episode Target sketch where he does the classic peg, and that one ended up becoming a meme. So more people remember that one. But I do think that this one is probably superior in quality to that one in terms of a sketch. It also is famously a sketch where Aubrey Plaza is playing an extra in the background shopping.
Now, where is she, John? Because I looked at this like the Zapruder film, and the only person I can figure is the woman with the green shirt and the vest. Is that her?
I'll show you after, but we did post it on our Instagram the week that Aubrey hosted. So I zoomed in on her to show, but I'll send it to you after. But yeah, she's in the background, like in the back left corner of the sketch throughout this one. She famously worked at SNL in the set prop department. And then also she did NBC tours. I think she talked about this recently on Amy Poehler's podcast as well. Okay, so coming off of Target Lady and like a really good opening to this episode, we then go into Dick in a Box, which again, all-time epic sketch, coming out of that into Barry Gibb talk show, which I alluded to as having like this crazy hype intro, which I felt was like concert level stuff where you're going to like go into this sketch. And then Jimmy and Justin are going to sit down. The momentum probably slowly starts to wind down at that point, but we do see Daryl Hammond playing Jimmy Carter in the sketch. Always like an interesting note. I think that they had done this the first time that Justin had hosted in season 29. And then I think Cameron Diaz is going to host this season later, and they'll bring this back. So it's not totally shocking that we saw it here, but because Jimmy's no longer a part of the cast, you would wonder and I guess Jimmy's not hosting any late night talk show at the time, you sort of wonder if we would even have Jimmy in the building, but he is here with Justin, and they sort of continue to establish their relationship and importance to the show, Bill, here at the Barry Gibb Talk Show.
Yeah, this turns out to be quite a runner. This is the third time we get this. The Jimmy Carter part is really interesting to me, and I had to go back and look, so I've got a little bit of trivia for you, John. So, Daryl plays this through 2009, 33 years from first to last impression at this moment in time. Do you know the president with the longest first to last time? It'll shock you.
Well, Biden was done by Kevin Nealon in 88, right?
Yeah.
And then most recently this year. So
Biden is only number 5, 33 years, a little bit behind Carter.
Yeah, I don't think Gerald Ford was done by anyone other than Chevy. So Reagan, just doing some quick, I don't know if this is good podcasting or not, but Reagan, was there a recent Reagan? Trying to think of that. George H.W. Bush was done by Fred Armisen, right? Is that?
Nope.
Oh, are we talking about presidents like from even before
before their president?
Oh, okay. Well, obviously like George Washington and stuff was done, right?
That's the number one. And
yeah,
the first person who played him? Brad Hall.
Okay. All right.
Master impressionist Brad Hall back in 1984. And obviously we got it with Ragazzi just last year. So he's number one. If you include all of their time living, Trump at this point would be number 2. And then Lincoln, not including the backstage stuff, would be 3, done from 78 to 2013.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
There
A
you
little bit
go.
of a trick question. I didn't realize you were talking about any president. Yes.
Any American president, John.
Okay, that makes sense. But I do think that this Barry Gibb Talk Show again was really fun. I think the energy there is super strong. Ajax, what did you think of the return of the Barry Gibb Talk Show?
I love all of the Barry Gibb talk shows, but I think the subject matter and the interviews and everything is just secondary to the theme song, the opening and the ending. Just like Astronaut Jones, what's up with that? I mean, I'm a sucker for like the intentionally long open of the theme songs, and just like whatever they fill in is fine, but I'm just ready to hear the song again to close it out. But it's joyful every time. I'm here for it. I don't care what it's about. Give it to me. Yep.
Yeah, Fred, how do you feel about Barry Gibb Talk Shows?
I actually feel exactly like Ajax. It's really more about like the music and the energy. Half the time I kind of can't even tell what's going on, but I'm okay with that. It's like, I know he's going to get angry. I know he's going to act crazy. I'm not like always following the plot that well, which I don't know if that's telling of me, but there's a lot of screaming and I can't always understand it, but it's always a good time.
Yeah, it's very silly. So, yeah. All right, let's keep going. We're gonna have a sketch that comes up next called Dry Eyes. This is a game show, and I always felt like this was a little bit of an important game show for SNL for a couple of reasons. One is Bill Hader hosting the game show here, which I think is starting to establish like how do we properly use Bill Hader, who is clearly very talented, but they're just still trying to find his place on the show. He's great here opposite of Justin and Fred Armisen, who, again, in this new cast where we have all of these great performers, was like probably a little bit lost in trying to find his place and what he does really well. But I think that this is a really great sketch that is totally underrated and overshadowed by everything around it, called Dry Eyes, where the game show is trying to make these people laugh as Justin can perfectly hold it together and sort of has that tease back and forth with the audience, both in the sketch and out of the sketch. And then Fred just loses it at everything in these crazy moments of crying. Bill, do you like Dry Eyes?
I do. Fred, just thinking that he could go on a show like this, it's almost like one of these really stupid people going on Jeopardy thinking that they're going to kill it, and they're terrible at it. He cries at the first mention of being nominated for Teacher of the Year. Probably more famous for the gif or the meme that kind of came out of this with Justin, right? With the look to the camera as he's holding it together. So yeah, I mean, this is fun. Middle of the night madness going on here. And yeah, Hader is on the path to game show superstardom here.
Yeah, I love Fred's like, I'm a dad, and Bill's like, no, you're not. Stop it. It's a really great moment. Fred, how do you like Dry Eyes?
I like Dry Eyes. I mean, Hater's great. Everyone's great in it. It's a strange talk show concept, to be honest, but it's crazy how this episode is so good that Dry Eyes is my least favorite of the night. Right? I think there's so many episodes where you could argue Dry Eyes is like a top sketch on like a more average episode. So um, that's just like it just shows how good of an episode it is.
Hey, Jackson, anything you want to say about it?
Yeah, Seth defends this.
I think he wrote
very.
it.
Yeah, he defends it very much on that episode. I re-listened to it this morning in preparation for this, but yeah, I love this. I love the idea that all the Fred news that he's crying about is happy things, whereas the Justin stuff that they almost get him to cry about is sad things. So it's that juxtaposition I enjoyed, and then the set design's really cool because the backdrop has teardrops in the background, so it's kind of cool. Whoever designed that set is pretty nice. But yeah, I enjoyed this one too. Not laugh out loud funny, but it was definitely in line with everything else. Very solid for me.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get Justin Timberlake performing music, and we're gonna have intros by Cameron Diaz, who he was dating at the time, as well as Jimmy Fallon, who will then do the second intro. He'll perform "My Love," one of the biggest hits of 2006, along with "What Goes Around Comes Around," which is one of my favorite songs of all time. And I will say, Justin's performance of "What Goes Around Comes Around" is my favorite musical performance in the history of the show. I think it is all-time classic. Like he is so good. It ends the night, and rightfully so. It ends the night. Like they could have. I know that they were planning a sketch. We'll talk about it later. That didn't end up having time to come in. But I just think the way that it ultimately ended with that performance was so fantastic, and it gives me absolute bonus points for that episode. On Weekend Update, we see Daryl Hammond as CNN's Lou Dobbs talking about the Mexican border, and then Bill Hader and Fred Armisen playing the gay couple from New Jersey as they just recognize civil unions. So think about that, how there was once a crazy time where there was no gay marriage, but New Jersey is now allowed civil unions, and they're together with their chemistry, having some fun, chewing some gum, and going back and forth with each other. Bill, anything on Update stand out to you?
I always like these two characters from these guys, even though they're basically doing a diverted version of the Sopranos characters. Like, I think for all the bad kind of gay jokes they did in the early 2000s on SNL, I think this is really more fully formed characters, even though we don't see them in other scenarios other than this. But it's really kind of an important moment because this is kind of the beginning of all the gay marriage initiatives that kind of take over the United States. So I think it's kind of important besides being very funny.
Yeah, in a very weird way, I think they did this 6 times. In a very weird way, the gay couples from, I think they're going to do a gay couple from Connecticut. Later on, they're going to do a gay couple like in the army, and a gay couple from Maine. Like it actually, if you go through it, follows along the progress of gay marriage. So it's like a weird SNL thing that's happening here. Ajax, in general, are you a fan of Seth and Amy's Update era?
Yeah, I like their chemistry together. I think they bounce off each other perfectly. I mean, you can tell they're friends. You know, it's kind of like you're let into that friendship during Update every time they were on. And so, yeah, I really appreciate it. Now, Seth's hair was interesting during this time period. As he's gotten older, his hair has gotten so much better. Of course, he's got his own talk show now, so it's got to look nice. But his hair was doing some funky stuff back then. That's the thing I got the most out of this. I'm watching it the whole time. I'm like, wow, Seth, were you like in a sketch we didn't know about or something? Like,
well, he'd just become the quarterback of the era, so I think that he was probably got a lot going on. But yeah, that's a pretty funny note. Fred, anything you want to say about Update?
Seth also has a lot more money now that he has his own show compared to back then. I love Seth and Amy, and I love the gay couple from New Jersey. As somebody who's proudly from New Jersey and a big Sopranos fan, this really tickled me. So I love this one.
Yeah, and it's also crazy to think about, like, at this time, December 2006, so we're only like a few months away from Seth Meyers almost not coming back to the show. I mean, if he didn't get Update, he's not there. So it's a very interesting alternate timeline thing. But I am so happy because I really do think he makes this season so great, and which will continue to lead into this great era. There's a sketch right after an update called Hip Hop Kids, which I've always really thought was hilarious, which is it's episode 42 of Hip Hop Kids. Yo, 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 how we going to get out of this mine shaft, yo, as the rapping crew comes into the mine shaft to perform together, not realizing that every time they perform, the rocks are going to fall and kill one of them. And Maya, in particular, I find so funny in this one as she's yelling about the stalagmites falling on her. There's going to be some cave creatures. It is so silly and so stupid. And one of those things that I just think Justin just fits in like a glove with the rest of the cast performing in this sketch. I've made so many stupid references to this one over the years. Ajax, do you like Hip Hop Kids?
I do. It's so absurd and just ridiculous. But the name Joe Jessica, like, what is that name? Oh my gosh, I love it. And then just the ill-advised dancing and music and a mine shaft. But yeah, I loved the cave creatures that come out. So that movie, The Descent, was popular at the time. And so you had Bill and Forte come out, and they ate Sudeikis, and it gave Amy an idea. Maybe instead of trying to escape, they should just try to regain some sustenance. So they went and ate some other hip hop kids.
Very sick. It was a really twisted show, but I really like that they went all out for it. This is also a Seth Meyers written sketch, so it is very good stuff from Seth here tonight. Fred, your thoughts on Hip Hop Kids?
Again, I'm a huge fan of this one also. It's just like a very great concept. It's great to hear that's from Seth. It's like a lot of fun. Just like seeing them sabotage themselves like that. You know where it's going to go. You know they're dumb enough. Is this Sudeikis' only main role this episode, or did I miss another one?
Trying to think,
because I think he's really good in this. Like with that, like
I think
deep
it is
voice
his
he's
only
putting
sketch
on.
in the episode.
Yeah, I like this one a lot.
Yeah, it is his only one. I'm also taking a look at the rundown to see if there's any. Yeah, he was cut in a. There was an Anderson Cooper sketch that Seth sometimes was playing Anderson Cooper at the time. That one got cut for time, and he was going to be in that one, but that didn't make it into the show. Bill, your thoughts on Hip Hop Kids?
Yeah, Amy schooling Joe Jessica about stalactites and stalagmites, and these rocks. It seems like they know when we're dancing. This is like a live action Scooby Doo for Hip Hop Kid. Like I love everything about it. It's so stupid. It's funny.
Yeah, for sure. Can we skip talking about Virginia God? Does anybody want to talk about this one?
I have one word written down, John. No.
Ooey.
Ooey.
Yeah, this is Keenan's mama character, Mrs. Hastings, who's always gonna like marry somebody new and take their stepdaughter out to someplace. Obviously Keenan stopped performing as women after a certain while, didn't really like it. I will say, not my favorite thing in this era of the show that Keenan was doing. But yeah, unfortunately it falls in an episode that I think is an all-time classic. Do either of you guys want to say anything about it?
I mean, it just plays to the comedy of the time,
Yeah.
It's we're 20 years older and wiser. We've moved on. We've moved past that era. So
yeah, there's like a few things in this that I think are like kind of cute and laughing at, but overall it just like doesn't have the energy that I want it to.
It's a very non-Nan Golden era thing to have.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does feel very, I mean, they did do this in the prior season, but it is very, actually, no, it didn't. I think it premiered in season 32. I'm not going to take that away from them. But yeah, for me, it does feel like something that like would have happened when Finesse was on the cast in a way that like Finesse and Keenan would have done together. But then we're going to have Amy Poehler do a holiday message from Nancy Grace. I think Sarah did Nancy Grace recently, and we were talking about it, comparing it to Amy's here. I'll say from like an energy perspective, it's not like too crazy. It's direct to camera. Like it almost feels like this was going to be the cold open at some point and then got pushed back. But I do think the commentary in itself is pretty good. There was some scandal at the time about Duke lacrosse players who were falsely accused of sexual assault. And then she's talking about sexual assault allegations. Again, like the episode, it's very different than the Sandler episode. This episode to me sort of peters out towards the end. Bill, anything you have on the Nancy Grace appearance?
You're being very kind to say it just peters out, John. It kind of falls off a cliff here, which is why I'm a little hesitant to put it quite this high with all the other great stuff that we've had. I mean, the Nancy Grace, this is a very good impression by Amy. She only did this 4 times. I know when we talked about Sarah doing it, it felt like she had done this a bunch of times, and she does this really, really well. Nancy Grace was everywhere, and this is such a time capsule. That Duke lacrosse story was everywhere for about 6 to 7 months at this point. And just right before this, it had come out that they were falsely accused. So it makes sense for it to be here, but there's a lot of uncomfortable laughter you can hear in the audience throughout this whole thing. So they don't seem to know how to react after having such high highs earlier in the evening.
Yeah, I do think it speaks to Amy's talent that these impressions were so memorable. I also think like it does remind me a little bit of Kristen Wiig's like Susie Orman impression at the time. Like again, as a young teenager, like I didn't know who these people, I didn't know who Nancy Grace or Susie Orman were, but I did feel like I learned them through the impressions of Amy and Kristen and what they were doing here on the show. Ajax, anything you got on the Nancy Grace impression?
Yeah, I mean, Amy's impression is fantastic and she commits to the bit, but it's just too heavy of subject matter. And I just think it sucks the air out of the room for a short time, because then we get Justin closing out with a just incredible performance. But yeah, I think this could have been cut. I mean, the subject matter was serious, and you know, they felt like they had to address it, but at the same time, I mean, it was a party up until this point, and this kind of just like was a little bit of a buzzkill. but it did get better as it went on. I mean, it ended after, you know, the last couple lines were very strong, and then you got the performance. But altogether, I mean, they should have used the other sketch that they were thinking about using.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second. Fred, your thoughts here?
In the podcast, do they talk about this sketch and how it was a buzzkill, or is that a different
Yeah,
sketch?
they do.
They do, okay. Yeah. It's been a while
Yes.
since I listened to that episode. Yeah. And I think
well, Fred, they sort of, I think they allude to it, but Jim Downey was still writing on the show at the time, one of the all-time greatest writers in the history of the show. Downey and Seth have like an unbelievable amount of respect for each other, but we talked about it a little bit in season 34 about how there was almost like this battle behind the scenes of like who's going to write the politics, Downey or Seth at the time, and Seth ends up winning out. And Downey was still contributing to the show. I don't think from the studio very often. He would often send in sketches, and like this is one of those things that Downey ended up writing for Amy that I think the show, who like owes Jim Downey everything, was like, we got to get this in the show in some sense. And for Seth, in, you know, who's quarterbacking the show, I don't think it does play as well. And that's maybe what you get to hear in the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. But then, like you said, it ends on this what goes around comes around performance. So great. And then it looks like we're going to get another sketch, but we don't ultimately get it. And that sketch is very famously like one of the cut sketches that a lot of people talk about from this era that they wish they'd gotten on the show, which is Justin Timberlake performing as Michael McDonald going to McDonald's. And I think they play some of that in the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast. And it's one that they also tried to bring back in season 34 when he would come back to host again. And it's just like a huge shame, because I do feel like that one makes the episode definitely in the pantheon. This one comes very close, but the ending does drop off a little bit. So, Bill, let me get your overall thoughts on Justin Timberlake's season 32 episode at 11.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in the countdown, we're talking about an episode that should honestly be great from beginning to end. And we're just so close until we get to Virginica. And you know, the downer of Nancy Grace, but overall just a really, really great episode of SNL. As I said, probably his best. I agree with you. There's some debate of this versus his first time. And music extra points for sure, as you also alluded to, playing 2 number 1 songs and just incredible performances here. Probably just a little bit too high for me.
Yeah, I will also defend the episode in saying that I don't think this episode is at number 11 because of Dick in a Box. I think it is, you know, Dick in a Box is the bonus on top. It's the cherry on top for this episode. But I think that the episode itself is great, and the perception of the episode isn't only so great because of that one all-time epic segment. So that to me still does put it among the classiest episodes we're ever going to get. Ajax, your final thoughts on JT's episode? Love it.
Yeah, altogether very satisfying. I mean, between the two, I would flip flop them just because the way, you know, the Nancy Grace thing and Virginica, as you mentioned. But yeah, I mean, this has got to be up here. Like, this is just the height, the increase of laughter all the way through. I mean, just so good. Gosh, I love it. So yeah, it deserves to be here for sure.
Fred, let's get your final thoughts on it.
Holes. No, like Virginica, look, Virginica is quite weak, but I think even the Nancy Grace one, I mean, there's a darkness to it. It's uncomfortable, but a really good impression. I like where this one's at personally. I think like everything leading up to it, like bringing back Target Lady, Homelessville, Barry Gibb. I think it's a really solid episode for me.
I agree. I think that this episode is really important for the era. I mean, season 31 has a lot of like marks where you're like, okay, this is it. This is the turning point. I see it. But there are some good episodes. I think the Dane Cook one to be the premiere of this season is pretty good. Hugh Laurie's episode. A lot of people remember Alec Baldwin's episode. But it is the Justin Timberlake episode of season 32 where everyone is like, oh, wow, we are in this era, the golden era, and it really feels that way. And you're just excited to watch the show week after week. So I do think this episode is important to the history of the show, so much so that I think this is definitely a top 20, probably top 15 episode of all time. I'm going to say like marginally high if I'm trying to be as objective as possible. Subjectively, one of my top 2 or 3 favorite episodes ever, at least just that first half. But truly just a great episode, and really one that I'm happy we were able to talk about here on the countdown. So that's it at number 11. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into the top 10 episodes of all time. This is going to be a lot of fun to talk through over the next few weeks to see if you feel like the listeners got it right, because we have some epic episodes coming up here. And this is an episode that I saw, people ruminating on in the chat over the last few weeks. Like, would we get this one? Would it make it? I'm so proud of the listeners that they voted for this one and got this one on here, because I think that there would be a huge asterisk on our countdown if we weren't going to talk about it. So let's head to a season that we haven't talked about yet with any episode from. And this to me is one of the most interesting, fascinating, most experimental episodes ever, where George Wendt and Francis Ford Coppola host Saturday Night Live in season 11 with music from Philip Glass. This is March 22nd, 1986. And you might be saying to yourself, what, season 11 made the countdown? This is an episode that does not feel anything like what else you're going to get in season 11. It is a episode from a season where the show was very close to cancellation the first time that Lorne Michaels when Lorne Michaels finally does return to the show after 5 years away. And the show's not in a great spot. And we have an extremely experimental episode that we will dive in and take you through. So Bill Kenny, how do you feel about it landing in here at 10?
Perfectly said, John. So proud of the fans. When we started this, you can quibble over which Steve Martin, which Tom Hanks. There's 3 that I think have to be included in any discussion because of how unique and how groundbreaking they are. We already talked about Grodin. We haven't talked about Shandling, which I'm getting a little nervous about. And this is the third one. This is format breaking in every sense of the word. From the beginning of it, not getting a live from New York, and the only time that we ever don't get one other than the Paul Rudd Omicron episode in Lauren's era, to sticking with the format from the very second to the very bitter end, just pulling out great performances by much maligned cast members in the cases of Anthony Michael Hall, Robert Downey, even Joan Cusack. So yes, very, very excited to get into this one.
Ajax, how do you feel about this really interesting episode making it here at 10 on the list?
Yeah, you talk about different. I mean, it's just Lorne stepping out of his comfort zone and us along for the ride with him. So it's unique in so many facets, but just I think what's important here is, this is called the SNL's greatest episodes countdown. I think that's where the greatest versus favorites, I mean, that's where it like culminates here, because this is definitely a greatest versus a favorite for me. I mean, where some places where I would have liked it to be funnier, you are not separated from the fact that it's just so unique and so innovative and so different that you have to you're glued to what's going on. You're like, what is happening right now? Like, why is there 45 minutes of the show left after update? what is happening? So it's just so bizarre, but so truly wonderful. And yeah, I mean, I was kind of shocked, but at the same time, after watching it again, I'm like, well, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it just does. So
Yeah, I almost wonder if this episode saved Saturday Night Live as a whole. I mean, I think there were talks about the show coming back for season 12, but without this and the recognition that something could be made different, I think that the show probably does get canceled. So, we talk a lot about cast members saving the show. I think this is an episode where they just pull out all the stops and try something different, and it really, really works for them. Fred, watching this episode, how did it feel to you and it landing here at 10?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with Ajax on that. Like, I have so much respect for this episode. Like, my eyes were definitely glued to the screen. Like, what's going to happen? Anything can happen. Anything kind of did happen as far as SNL terms go. So I was very impressed with it. I agree with Ajax, though, where, I don't know if certain things were technically funny, but it was all technically fun. Like, everything was like very just like entertaining to watching it unfold and seeing them break the format. It really does make me wish that they would do this a tiny bit more sometimes. Like, I think the only thing they kind of do is like Dave Chappelle does what he wants on the show, or like the Forte episode had like a runner, I believe. But it would be fun to see something like this happen again, because I definitely appreciated it.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if it could ever be done again. It took place in such a unique place and time. I know everyone, sort of wishes the show would refresh itself and try new things. But yeah, this is something that I think needed to happen when it did happen. So let's take you through this in case you haven't seen it. So this is sort of the way that this episode works. There is a host, George Wendt, very famously from Cheers. There is a musical guest, Philip Glass, who is this experimental composer at the time. It is a normal episode, but it's almost like an episode taking place in another episode, where you see the sketches happen for a lot of them, but then there is commentary on the sketches and adjustments with this other storyline taking place, where Francis Ford Coppola, obviously very famous director of Godfather, comes in, and he has been given, according to Lorne in the storyline of this episode, the complete creative control of being able to change things throughout the episode as he sees fit to make this work. So we start off backstage with Lorne Michaels explaining to the cast that he's bringing in Coppola to have creative control over the episode, that the network's on board with it. The cast is sort of like, what, Lorne? How could this happen? And it does feel like something that would have taken place in the 70s, where we had the Grodin episode, like they do these like full episode runners. It is something that feels a little bit more unique in this time compared to what we would get from that original era, Bill.
Yeah, and first time we've seen Lorne on screen since the original era. Even though we're almost at the end of season 11, we haven't really seen him. And he plays such a huge, prominent role in this. Maybe his most acting that he ever does. I don't know. We get a couple other moments in history, but overall, from the beginning to the end, this is a lot of Lorne. I love the fact that he says he's going to move full-time into wrestling. If you don't know, at this point, Ebersol had signed a deal with the WWF at the time to air in the weeks at SNL. So they had Saturday Night Main Event every fourth Saturday or something like that, which was crazy to me. And I hated it because I wanted to see repeats of SNL as opposed to this. So it's a nice little dig at Ebersol. Terry Sweeney probably starting his best night on the show, starting as an ally of Lorne, and then obviously kind of becoming the helper to Coppola as we move on here. So, and again, no live from New York. Cusack says it, but not to camera, not to talk about it, and we kind of fade into black.
Yeah, and that moment where we fade into black ends up being really interesting because it's going to lead into this new opening montage that's different from what we would get in season 11, where Francis Ford Coppola presents the show. It just looks really different. So, Fred, this opening here that we get, how did it play for you?
I really like the meta nature of it, and also like the Francis Ford Coppola art house intro of it all. The fanboy in me still kind of wishes they somehow said live from New York. I mean, does it count that Jones says it? If there was some sort of way he could have incorporated it in his own way, it makes like the whole 50 years feel a little incomplete to me. But, well, not the whole 50 years, but No, but I really liked it. I like the creative aspect of it.
Yeah, it just feels special. There's this epic feeling to it as it opens up the show. Ajax, do you have that same feeling?
Yeah, I agree with you, Fred, on that. I mean, just not saying live from New York, it's Saturday night. It's just so weird. So just, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's just bizarre. But yeah, you're captivated by just how unconventional the episode is, and then the seamless just transition right into that. Instead of the traditional opening monologue, you get George just walking out. Like, it's just so weird. But I can't take my eyes off it at the same time, which is kind of the point. If you're almost getting canceled and you want viewers, well, my eyes were like, what is happening here? So I can only imagine, what it was like back then, just seeing it live like that.
It's like that Arrested Development episode, like Save the Bluths. I don't know if anyone's an Arrested fan, but like they're just like 3D glasses, all of that, just like going for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think look, in a way, the closest comparison for this episode that I often do make is the Don Rickles episode that we talked about. It is different in that it's not like totally conceptual, like from start to finish. It's just really him derailing the episode. But I almost feel like those are like two different sides of a coin. Where it's just two ways where SNL can be just like extremely creatively different. It could be externally different in the way that they produce it, or it could be like internally different in the way that the sketches just fall apart. And I think that those are the 2 points in SNL. Those 2 episodes are the 2 points in SNL history where it just feels magical the entire time. So we head into the monologue here, where we're gonna have Francis Ford Coppola cut off George Wendt as he's talking to the audience, how he's explaining, okay, I know you just heard, but we're gonna need you to laugh differently. You're gonna have to say this, we're gonna fix it in the next scene. And then we get this sort of B plot throughout the night where Terry Sweeney, one of the cast members, wants to be Francis Ford Coppola's assistant and suck up to him because he thinks he's going to take over the show. And he's like, thank God you're taking over, and he'll be by his side throughout the entire night. So Bill, I love this.
You've got to fix this sinking ship. So many references to in dire straits, that the dire straits that SNL is in at this moment, and this is the first of them. Yeah, Terry gets, as I said, just underutilized, put in these really terrible roles throughout the year that he's on the show. He's really getting to shine here. Coppola facing the audience and telling them, no, they'll laugh at it a second time. Just, we're going to need more from you. And I think that really kind of sets the tone. We've seen the opening credits now, and it's very different. And now we're seeing that the monologue is also very different. First time we see George Wendt on the show, which, you think of him related to SNL because he did so many superfan sketches. He only hosts twice, and this is the first one. So I think this is a great one to be associated with.
Yeah, ultimately. And he would pass this year in 2025. And of course, the memories would flood back of him being a part of this episode. And it's also just so cool, right? Like, you would think so many people, even in season 11, are just excited to finally get the chance to host one of the most creative shows ever on television, Saturday Night Live. The show isn't probably doing nearly as great as they thought it would with Lorne Michaels returning. But the fact that George would give up his episode to be a part of this experiment also goes to show how great of a guy he is. And it's going to play out really beautifully here. Ajax, anything you want to say on the monologue?
Yeah, I mean, I think George was the perfect player for this because he's not, he's very, very humble. And he's somebody that, doesn't have such a strong personality that it would be more of a conflict. Because when Francis cuts him off, it's kind of jarring at first. When you first hear that, you're like, whoa, what's going on here? But because it's George, he takes it and just, we can relate to his character and just his overall personality as a person. So I think he's a great person for this episode to play alongside.
Fred, do you like how they did the monologue here?
Oh, I love it. And I think George bounces back very well. Like, it just shows that he's actually like a truly good actor, like a good comedic actor. And I'm surprised how funny Francis is, because he's not somebody that I think of as a funny man by any means, but he plays his part well too. Like, it could have come off kind of cheap, but I think he's very good playing himself as well. I think the monologue's really good. Like, when he repeats the joke and it kills the same lines, that's really nice to see.
It's true. And there's also this other storyline happening throughout the episode where a lot of cast members aren't really happy that Coppola is there. They keep calling him Coppola and they get upset, and it's going to play further into the episode of that, they just don't appreciate him. But yeah, I mean, he's just playing into this so well. He has a great comedic sense. The first sketch after the monologue is probably the most normal sketch that we get in the episode, at least one of them. It's The Honeymooners, which is a show that aired one season from 1955 to 1956, but pretty famous. The Honeymooners lost episodes here this time with Ralph punching Alice and some Honeymooners jokes. Bill, I know this was your favorite show as a kid, so how did this play for you?
Wow, John, come on, man. No, the original Honeymooner episodes were constantly in reruns at this time. It was a huge deal when these lost episodes came out. Jackie Gleason had them basically in his own personal vault because he had done the Honeymooners on various shows that he had done throughout the 50s. So this was a huge deal when all of a sudden, 30 years later, there were all these new Honeymooner episodes to watch. And I mean, the domestic violence of it all obviously hasn't aged well, but that was the joke of the Honeymooners. Family Guy would do this about 15 years later, but SNL did it first with actually hitting Alice and knocking her to the ground. Of course, Nora, such a pro, stands up and she's fine. But this is great. I don't think George does a particularly good Jackie Gleason, who is a very kind of easy impression, but he's a portly man and it makes sense. And I think it works really well. Anthony Michael Hall, also very good here.
Yeah, I would say this is, we said this throughout the countdown a lot, that sometimes when like a really good host comes into the episode, it makes all the cast members better. This is by far Anthony Michael Hall's best episode on the cast. I think it's also Robert Downey Jr.'s best episode on the cast. There's a lot of people here who stand out in a way that they don't throughout the rest of season 11. Anthony Michael Hall, I think, is absent also for a lot of the, early part of 1986 as he's out filming more movies. So it is a really interesting perspective to look at to see how this episode affected the entire cast. Fred, did you enjoy seeing this Honeymooner sketch?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Bill that his Ralph Cramden was not that special. I liked it in the sense that like it is an American classic, but no fun, Fred. I don't know. It felt like it was kind of like how we sometimes talk about like Trump cold opens, where it's like it's just how the show is, and then like there's one joke and it's when he actually like hits his own wife. So like other than that, like I wasn't catching like a lot of like jokes. It kind of just felt like an episode recreated. Maybe I'm missing the point. Like I've seen old Honeymooner episodes, but maybe there was like more comedy there that I was missing. So maybe a little less bullish on it.
Hey, Jackson, anything here for you?
No, I think you're right with that. I think the joke was really with the punchline from Anthony Michael Hall there where, oh, Ralphie, I never saw you connect before, actually connect. So, I mean, just unbelievable. Anthony Michael Hall is so young, too, like 18 years old in all these movies on Saturday Night Lives with Francis Ford Coppola. I mean, you got to think about that. He's 18 years old. This is crazy. But I think, yeah, you're right. He was much better as Norton than George was as Jackie Gleason's Ralph Cramden. But I think the whole point was just the joke. We'll put a little bow on that. We'll move on, that kind of thing. But from a satirical standpoint versus a problematic standpoint, yeah, I think the joke was made and you're just like, all right, let's clean up and get out of there.
Yeah, and it has like a little bit of a slowish ending to this. It doesn't like have a punchy ending the way that, no pun intended, but that you would see with a lot of sketches. And then we go to this, we go into a real commercial. I think it was a real Tic Tac commercial at the time that gets interrupted by Francis Ford Coppola, who tries to stop the commercials, who, Lauren says like, wait, I gave you control over the show, not the commercials. We still have to air the commercials. And he says, no, I've spoken to Grant Tinker, the head of NBC, who said I could do whatever I want. And it's really not Tinker. It's Tommy Flanagan pretending to be the head of NBC. Obviously, Lovitz who's the star of season 11. He comes out with that famous character who was talking to Coppola. This was really fun, Bill.
Yeah, real commercial, famous ad campaign with that woman who was in plenty of Tic Tac commercials about the 1 calorie in Tic Tacs. I love that. That was jarring. Even though I had known it in my head, I hadn't seen this part in a while because it's not in any of the reruns. And and then Tommy Flanagan. Could you imagine having a podcast at this time and being talking about Tommy Flanagan's 8th appearance in 13 episodes. How crazy would we be going, John? Like, are they really bringing this back again? But this was the sinking ship that was SNL season 11. John's the star for sure, and I'm always a fan of Flanagan, and him saying that it was a news bulletin, not an ad, was really fun too.
Yeah, I think you do really see the stars of season 11 pop in this episode a lot in Lovitz and Nora and Dennis Miller, who will all come back for season 12. And this, going from this commercial moment, we go into Mystery Playhouse, which is there's a real commercial break here. So they'll go into after this. And coming out of the commercial break, we'll see that Francis Ford Coppola is going to walk into the control room, meet Davey Wilson. So there's this like sort of meta behind the scenes moment in the middle of the show that you would normally get like as part of the monologue or something like that, where he goes in there and he says he says, Dave, give me the headset. He wants to take over. And he goes into this Mystery Playhouse sketch, and he's going to be the one directing. So you hear him say, okay, go to the bumper at the top of the sketch, go to Don Pardo, and he's going to do the voiceover, and go into the sketch. And throughout the entire time, we get this Mystery Playhouse sketch, but with really bad camera angles. They're late to switch things properly. So you're starting to get the idea in the meta-ness of the episode that Coppola is not doing as good of a job as they had thought that he was going to do. Ajax, how do you feel like this run played here?
Oh, I think it played well. In fact, I mean, like the history of this episode, I've only heard about it. I've watched the monologue before. I've seen like a sketch or two from it, but I've never watched the whole thing. And they got me with it because I remember seeing him in the control room asking about it. And then like couple seconds in, I'm like, what is going on? And then it hits me. I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. Okay. Yeah, that's him directing the sketch. That's the whole joke of the sketch, is that he's messing up the directions. So yeah, I thought it played well, and that it's very well executed for as old as it is. Cause we're talking about, what is this? 1985, 1986. So yeah. I mean, for what they had to do with it, I mean, you talk about blocking and how hard it is to camera angles when you're intentionally trying to get something to look good. And now you're intentionally trying to mess it up. I think they did very well with it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Fred, did you like this?
Yeah, I like this a lot. This is exactly what I was looking for. I'm actually like Ajax. I don't think I've ever seen this episode before, or if I had, it was like on in the background during like a rewatch. And it really surprised me. And at first I thought it was like, oh, is it my laptop? Is it my, like, why am I not catching like these important parts of the shot? And then I was like, oh, that's the whole joke. And then like, it made me like kind of laugh at myself. I thought it was really cool. I liked it.
Yeah, it's great. We're going to head to Philip Glass's first performance here of Lightning. He'll end up doing Rubric later on, so it's a nice part of this episode. Weekend update with a very young Dennis Miller, his short hair. There's this running bit they were doing in the spring of 1986 with the Weekend Update dancers who'll come out here. It's very weird, but they'll come out and dance to an INXS song. We're going to have Joan Cusack. It's award season, so she's talking about how the movie Out of Africa is not so funny. Joan Cusack still trying to find her place on the show, and ultimately wouldn't really end up doing that. But this is a major moment for Joan to be direct to camera. And then we have Francis Ford Coppola coming into, there's going to be, I think there was like a running bit the week prior where Dennis Miller was going to do this remote interview and invited, listeners to come for a contest to send in that I don't think ends up materializing on the show. I think they dropped that bit. But Francis Ford Coppola is going to come in to Update to tell Dennis not to do the remote interview. Anything from Update, Bill, that you want to touch on?
I think the Weekend Update dancers, it's such a moment lost to time, something that I had forgotten about. Again, something that you don't see in reruns because of music rights and things like that. I think they did it better in the original era when it was the dancing N. But it's fine. They do this 6 times. Like, that's incredible to think about. They just couldn't find any comedy, so they had to have these dancers come out and sing, dance to a modern song. But other than that, I mean, Joan Cusack's fine. It's not the best commentary, but it's okay. I do want to say one thing about Philip Glass. So the singer in that is Janice Pendarvis, who famously comes back and is one of the Quonsettes for Timmy Meadows with Vanessa Williams in 1998. So she has a little bit of an SNL connection here through the years.
Well, and she was married to Leon Pendarvis.
There is that too. Yes.
yes. So definitely a connection to the show there. So always interesting to see Dennis Miller on Weekend Update, who, again, if you were watching the Abersol era before this and you're waiting for somebody to bring the news desk back, Dennis Miller does a great job and really like pops here earlier on in his Update tenure. The first sketch after the update is a sketch called That Black Girl. This is a sketch by Denitra Vance, who is performing for the second time in That Black Girl. I think she previously did this. I think it was in the Harry Dean Stanton episode from January of 1986. And does the sketch and is performing it as the second edition before Francis Ford Coppola is going to come in, tear it all down, and wants to see an alternate version of That Black Girl that's more not that black girl, but that black girl. And it's really the first time in the episode that you're seeing him. Like, you saw Coppola be involved. This is more like to the degree of the monologue where he's really like tearing down this episode and directing things. And I think that this is a really poignant moment in the show. I think it's really nice. Denitra Vance, I believe, only the second Black woman to be a cast member in the history of the show after Yvonne Hudson. Clearly, there's not Black writers or Black supporting staff to help out Yvonne there, but there is something that's to be said about this is like a really good commentary on SNL not knowing how to write for Black cast members if you watch this in that way. So I thought that this was a really good segment to have among a very fascinating episode. Bill, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, just another example. We talked about Terry earlier in this episode, and Denitra, underutilized. Again, I mean, this comes up all the time, and it's just kind of the evolution of SNL. They don't know how to write for people who aren't white guys so much of the time, especially in these early days. Women are underutilized. Obviously, African Americans are underutilized other than Eddie. And I think she's really, really great here. She shows her acting chops. She had a theater background. Sadly, dies way too young from cancer in 94, I believe. But this is something she could have been at this great dramatic actress, and she really shows it here at the end of the sketch.
I agree. Yeah, good stuff here from Denitra Vance. Ajax, how did you feel about seeing this sketch?
Yeah, I'd like to echo all those sentiments. I mean, she shines here. Like, she's like a star in this sketch, and I'm just like, where is she after this? Like, she's somebody that could probably have stuck around after this year. I really believe that. I mean, truly, just from this one sketch alone, I thought she was great. But yeah, I agree with you saying this was a poignant moment. Bringing out the writers, the fake writers from that perspective, and they're very like stereotypically the whitest white guys hanging around, and they know the. I mean, the commentary, the social commentary here, and the fact that they're making fun of themselves. It's SNL. Like, this isn't fake. It's a problem. Bringing that to the forefront and going, yeah, we recognize it's a problem, and then still just like, yeah, very heavy, but this is the heavy that works. This is important. So this is really good.
Yeah, you great point with the writers who you'll end up seeing again at the end of season 11. They will be the ones that are encouraged to go into the room, into the fire, as we're trying to get rid of all the writers on the show. So that's like a great running bit throughout season 11. And also there's a great shot of Eugene Lee here, a very famous production designer on SNL, who will come in partway through to talk to Francis Ford Coppola about how they'll redo this set. Fred, how did you feel about That Black Girl?
I really liked it a lot, and it's like the social like commentary we need. I'm pretty impressed that they actually did this in an episode where maybe it's like they're throwing a Hail Mary. Like, is it the time to make fun of yourself like that? And yeah, those writers like cracked me up. Like, when I saw them, I was like, this is perfect. Like, they couldn't have been cast better. Like, they're like Abercrombie models, basically.
Yeah, it's true. It is really, really good stuff. Then we're going to get a sketch that is another pretty normal sketch in this episode. It's called Fish Market. I always found this to be like a sleeper hit. This is a Jim Downey and Andy Breckman sketch. So Downey, who had recently like come back to the show and was finding his way in there. Breckman, who had become one of the more prolific Ebersol era writers that Lorne wanted to, have him send him some stuff. And this year is a guy who he owns a fish market, and his son, played by Anthony Michael Hall, speaking of holes, meant to write whole shipment, but wrote whale shipment. So his store has like a giant whale, and he's just trying to get rid of the whale here, and he steps aside for a second. His son comes in, takes over the shop, and gets on the phone. And as he's on the phone, these two people who I guess are playing Eskimos in the world of the sketch like come in, and they want to buy from the whale but don't end up being able to buy because he's on the phone and doesn't notice. So the whole thing is like almost like a sitcom bit, Bill, that I really think does remind me a lot of, again, some of the things you would see in the 70s. It really worked for me.
Yeah, it works for me too. It's very early 80s sitcom. That's very true. I like Denitra here as well with the it's so bloody. Like just take 10 pounds for free. He's cutting off the piece. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's kind of a womp womp moment with the whole versus whale. But yeah, it gets the job done. And Andy Breckman goes on to a great career as well besides SNL. Writes for Seinfeld for many, many years.
Yeah, cue Beck and Kyle coming in holes. And yeah, it is good. Ajax, your thoughts on the fish market?
Oh, it's such a stupid joke, a simple premise, but it was my favorite of the whole thing. Or the whale thing. I don't know. But no, I loved it. It is so funny. And I miss those person walks into a shop sketches, they were really popular in the 70s, the samurai, and then you had a lot of them in the 80s and even up to the 90s. It's not Scottish, it's crap, where they walk into the shop. You don't see a lot of that anymore because everything's online, right?
It's a very Don Novello type sketch. He was writing for the show in season 11, but he didn't write this one. But it's like he used to write those ones where in the original era, they do like a bunch of them in a mall or even Olympia Cafe, like that type of thing.
Yeah, I love that. And then just some of the simple things like the plate with the sign that says whale and just the I can't even remember where I'm at on my notes here, but yeah, I love it. Oh yeah, blubber, nature's toothbrush. That line, like, it's just so stupid. But the set design, like that whale, that was really cool. Like
it was very cool.
Whoever designed that set, I mean, that was great. I love it.
It was great. Fred, your thoughts on...
I was going to say the same thing about the set. Like the set killed me. Like every time you would see that shot of like the giant whale head, like where's that tail even sticking out, right? Like in the street, right? That's like the ticket. Okay. But it's just so... I thought it was great. Honestly, like this is my favorite as well, Ajax, of the night. Like sketches of this era, like they go like a little bit long and there's like slow points, I guess. But like I love the concept. I thought it was great.
It was really great. And then after, you're going to see Nora Dunn. It's going to like transition out to see Nora Dunn and John Lovitz play. Robert Downey Jr. and Nora Dunn playing their actor, characters who are talking about Francis Ford Coppola and then giving some commentary on like Hollywood actors being very sophisticated and talking. I always love this bit that Nora and Robert Downey Jr. did, and I felt like had they kept RDJ on the show in future years, we would have seen this many times over. But Bill, this was to me was always really fun to see the sophistication of Nora and RDJ.
Yeah, hopefully Sammy's out there listening somewhere. We're talking about his boy so much tonight. This is one of Downey's better pieces for sure. It's the first time they do it. They only do it 3 times, but it's certainly something that we could have seen. And they're both so pretentious as they talk about auditioning for Coppola, and the process that went along with that. I do like those kind of transitions, even in a regular episode of this era.
Fred, did this play well for you, the actors?
Yeah, it was very effective for me. Is that the word they use? Effective?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. No, I really liked it. I thought it was a great piece. For Robert Downey Jr. too, who I always had the impression was not very effective on the show. But I thought this was very funny.
It was great. And then it's going to head over to Master Thespian, played by John Lovitz, doing the Ghost of Thespian's Past. He's going to pop up and talk to Francis Ford Coppola. And you get the whole line and acting and everything you would expect from Master Thespian. He comes out to praise Francis Ford Coppola, who's a little down on himself about the way the episode's going. And Thespian's like, no, you need to prepare. You need to have this grand finale, which is ultimately this segment will end up being a setup for what we will see that will end the show. So I'll put a pin in this and talk about this at the end of the night. And let's talk about Vietnam, which is a sketch right after this, where a bunch of people are at war, and we're going to see that Anthony Michael Hall in the world of the sketch is going to run out and get shot, except it turns out that they are using live ammunition in the sketch instead of fake ammunition for, to build the world. And then they're all freaking out, like, how did this happen? And Coppola thought that it would be best that they use live ammunition, which forces Anthony Michael Hall to yell at him, "You're sick. I'm 18 years old." Randy Quaid's going to break down from his character and start talking to him and gives him a speech. Everyone ends up quitting. And then it devolves into Coppola having this voiceover where he's freaking out in his head and being like, okay, maybe I'm not meant to do this. And he walks down the hallway. Lorne Michaels is going to catch up to him and says, well, you can't leave. They're going to go in an elevator, will open and close. And he says, nobody knows what the grand finale is. So there's all this huge, like, big production that we're getting towards the end of the night here, Ajax. How do you feel about it?
I mean, this was great. The just devolving into chaos. I'm a huge fan of that in general. But then you got this great oneer shot where the camera rolls back. You see the SNL, the old Studio 8H hallways, any of that kind of stuff. I'm a huge sucker for it. Love it. And then just Lorne saying that we have plenty of cast members left. That had me laughing. I love that line. It's just great. And yeah, I mean, I love that elevator. Like, you could see that it was like not a real elevator door, but I just love that Lorne is begging Francis on his hands and knees to stay for the finale. I'm just so bizarre. Like, that's something you would never in a million years think about. And that happened on that episode.
Yeah, in a way, like, there is this desperation from Lorne of, like, trying to figure out how to make the show work. And it is, the episode plays so well in the context that Lorne is going to figure it out. He's going to make the show great again. I guess if the show ends up getting canceled after season 11, this episode is just like a very weird footnote in an 11 season show. But ultimately, in the context of the 50 years, seeing Lorne have this moment of, like, this baby in the world of Saturday Night Live, his lowest low, is also very interesting. Fred, how does this play for you, the whole Vietnam sketch into the hallway?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Like, had it been canceled, it'd be kind of sad, but it also wouldn't have the legacy it has right now. I think we'd be talking about it very differently. No, I thought it was just great, like, great way to, like, well, not quite end the night, but, like, kind of lead into the end of the night. I thought it was really, like, a lot of fun what they had to do, especially with Apocalypse Now and everything. It's pretty spot on.
Bill, do you like this whole segment?
I love this, and it's very meta that the two people that they basically kill off are the two most beleaguered cast members in Downey and Anthony Michael Hall. Coppola's line about, I almost killed the kid from the Breakfast Club. Love that line. And is this really, I'm sure somebody knows it, John. I know you just watched all 50 seasons fairly recently. Is this the only time we ever get that walk from the doors of 8H to the elevator? Because most of the time it kind of stops by that hallway where the dressing rooms are and things like that. I don't know that we've ever seen that kind of long shot from beginning to end. Very, very interesting. If we have, it's been very rare.
Yeah, it happens a couple times in the original era in the Goodnights, where the whole cast will, like, run out down the hallway and you'll sort of, like, see a turn and see them go towards the elevator bank. I think the structure of that floor was a little bit different. There's been a lot of renovations since then. Oftentimes you'll see people coming up out of the elevator and then down the other way. So that's something too. But yeah, it's a very unique shot. It's always interesting to go through those backstage shots and see everything that's happening at the time. The road, SNL history, one of my favorite things that they do to this day. Philip Glass is going to perform again, and then Robert Downey Jr. is going to have this confrontational monologue with this very famous shot of him in a suitcase that is the one that has been used for generations to talk about, did you know that Robert Downey Jr. was a cast member on Saturday Night Live? And a lot of people do credit this as his greatest moment as he is going out there just in the suitcase. And he ends up getting upset because he's about to do this big monologue, but Joan Cusack is going to do it as well. Bill, your thoughts on the very famous Robert Downey Jr. confrontational monologue?
Yeah, I don't love this, although it's grown on me a little bit over the years. I know Downey doesn't love this. I can remember a segment with Fallon when he first started on the Tonight Show, and he talked extensively about this. Didn't even remember it got on, but he talked about it as one of his worst moments, the fact that he had done this whole piece. And I think Jimmy pulls out a picture of him in the suitcase, showing this picture to Iron Man of this young Robert Downey Jr. in a suitcase. But yeah, I mean, over the time, like, I think the non sequiturs that he's screaming are really good. If he does this when he's 25 as opposed to 18 or 19, I think it plays a lot better. He comes off kind of like a screechy little kid. But, you know, we know what he turns into, this Oscar-winning member of SNL. Like, I'm glad he gets a moment here when everybody else has as well in this episode.
Yeah, and I think between this and the actors, it is probably his best night on the show throughout the entirety of season 11. Ajax, your thoughts on the famous confrontational monologue?
It's so weird. I kind of love it in a way, but yeah, the lines are so poor. I mean, just awful. But the one line that stuck out to me in particular is, "I know why whales beach themselves. Spider-Man told me." So we have all these years before we have Iron Man talking Spider-Man, and I'm like, what universe am I in right now? What portal did I fall down? This is great.
Yeah,
so
and he's
yeah,
the guy that sold the whale to the fish market.
Right. So everything connects. It's crazy.
Yeah, so good. Fred, your thoughts on this very famous moment?
I could tell Robert Downey Jr. was good at doing whatever he was doing. I don't know if I understood everything he was saying or doing, but it was like fun to watch. I would have liked to have seen this a little bit earlier in the night instead of like it being basically one of the last things we saw. But it was like fun. It was definitely different, which like this episode was. So I appreciate it, but I didn't fully fall. I don't know if I fully get it. Like I want to rewatch it again.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this one, but it does sort of get, again, it's a famous image of Downey Jr., who ends up becoming a very famous person after being at the show. But I do think that the segment that will follow this one is probably like in my top 5 or 10 greatest segments in the history of the show. I think that the lead up to the grand finale that we were teased, it's very reminiscent of what we got at the end of season 34 with the whole cast out there performing. I sort of had that feeling then of Goodnight Saigon that I also got here with the grand finale, where we're going to have this chilling moment of Master Thespian talking about Studio 8H and how it was built for Toscanini, and you see all the shots of Studio 8H throughout the generations prior to 1986. It's so fantastic. That will lead to this like rolling camera shot of all of the performers of Saturday Night Live throughout the sets in the show going up. You get to see the band performing and all of that, and we'll end up transitioning out to George Wendt at a bar sitting across from the producers of the show that season, Al Franken and Tom Davis, who came back with Lorne and had been getting like a lot of shit for the way that they were producing the show that season. And then George Wendt will say the horror. The show will end as he goes out and gets a cab. And I find this segment so beautiful. It's so touching, and it's so like it's such a great conclusion to a fantastically creative Saturday Night Live that puts it in the pantheon of greatest episodes ever, Bill.
Yeah, those opening shots, as you said, of the Kraft Television Theater, your hit parade, Hullabaloo, which is a forgotten, crazy variety show. But John, you've been there. Anybody who's been in 8H, I mean, it's like walking in Wrigley Field or Fenway Park. You can feel the history in this building, and obviously SNL now being 50 years in there is a lot of time, but this was around for like 40 years before that, and so many important moments in the history of live television in the 40s and the 50s. So to kind of tip your cap to that when they never really mentioned that. I mean, you get a little bit of that with I think Aykroyd in the first couple of seasons when they do that. But yeah, the shots of all the sets, having everybody kind of take their bow as they would in a play. And then Franken and Davis, who we haven't seen together. I don't know that we'll ever see them again together on the same set on SNL, but it's first time, again, just like Lorne, since season 5 that they're together. And yeah, that kind of whole, was it all a dream thing where they're talking to George Wendt and he goes out and tries to get a cab is very well done. And yeah, just a great ending to a great episode.
Yeah, it's really special. And I just want to point out again to all of our patrons who are watching, or if you'd like to become a patron, we're going to have this episode out in full on our Patreon all week long following our podcast here so that you can watch this one play out in its entirety. And it is just a really beautiful way that this all came together at the end, Ajax.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you guys both mentioned it, the set pieces, just the sweeping shot of revisiting that as everybody's waving. It's just so beautiful. It makes me want that at the end of every episode, like oh, what did that one look like? Or what was that? Where was that one in position? And just bringing them all out. Obviously, that would be an impossible task. Probably never happen again, but I love that. And then, yeah, the 8H tribute was just so good. I mean, can you imagine getting that with every like historical building? You know, it's just so cool that they were able to do that. Love it.
Yeah, Fred, how did it play for you, the grand finale here?
It was awesome. It was so incredible. Do they not use that sweeping shot in like montages and stuff like that? Like when they for the show, like I feel like I've never seen it before. You know, at like specials and things like that. Because like I feel like they absolutely should, but maybe it's not a season they're necessarily trying to flaunt.
Yeah, I don't think that they do it in that way. I mean, oftentimes if you go to SNL now, you'll see like they're not breaking down sets, but sometimes like they'll have sets that are placed in front of each other during the show, like the way that the studio is designed. It's just like I just don't know if they could ever pull this off in the way where they just were able to like strategically place everything around the studio so that you get that nice sweeping shot, and they put all the cast members, like you put Dennis Miller back behind the update desk. Like there's just something really special about it.
Yeah, it's really impressive because that room is so small. 8H is tiny. So yeah.
Yeah, I loved every minute of it. So there you go. George Wendt and Francis Ford Coppola with Philip Glass, the number 10 greatest episode of all time as voted by you. Like I said, super happy that the listeners went back and had us talk about this one. I definitely feel that this is totally deserving of being a top 10 episode of all time in its creativity and its special feeling when this episode takes place. Like there's so many reasons why this one needs to be remembered and talked about in a season that is notoriously rough. This is one that stands out for me among the greatest episodes in Saturday Night Live history. So Bill, how do you feel about it overall?
Yeah, it's certainly one of the most important episodes. You kind of referenced it at the beginning of this, that did this save SNL by getting to see the creative juices of what the show could actually do, even in a much beleaguered season. Much deserved to see here. And again, can't say it enough. These two guys that are with us tonight are examples of this as well. The community of Saturday Night Network and SNL overall is just so smart and knows their shit, and they just show it here for an episode that's 40 years old and from a bad season. Love to see it.
I couldn't agree more. You guys crushed it. Ajax, how do you feel overall about this one being a 10?
Yeah, I mean, I love that I was finally able to get to watch the whole thing. Not something that I would have ever set out to do, but after watching it, I mean, yeah, it's super important, very great, definitely worth being here, and I'm just happy that I got to see it. It's 100%. Everything that you guys said is true.
Fred, your final thoughts on this one at 10?
No, it was so creative, so epic. Not far off from where I would put it. I think it was super cool. I've never seen anything like this. I can't believe I've never seen this before.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we got to talk about it here tonight. So that does it. That is our episode at number 10. We are within the top 10. So next week we will have 9, 8, and 7 to talk about here as we start to head towards the end of our countdown. Hard to believe that we've been doing this and we're almost near the end of the summer. But we have one more segment here for you tonight where we will talk through where we place these episodes on both mine and Bill's list. So I will put them up on screen and we will talk through them here. So I put Adam Sandler's episode at 12 out of 41 so far, the bottom of the 3 I talked about here tonight. I do think Adam Sandler returning to the show is just so fulfilling and so nice. I do think the start of the episode for me takes a little bit of a hit. So I actually have Sandler among the 3 at number 12 overall, but among the 3, the worst of the 3 that we talked to you about tonight. My 15 is Sigourney Weaver. 14 is Tom Hanks from season 16, Kristen Wiig, then Sandler. Then I got Will Ferrell's episode at 11, Larry David's at 10. I have Justin Timberlake's from season 32 at 9. Again, one of my favorites of all time. I think that episode is so unbelievably strong. It definitely probably falls off near the end, but still one of the greatest segments ever with Dick in a Box. Classic Christmas episode. Opening is amazing. I feel like it has to be there. I do have it at 9. I don't have it at 1 for everyone who thinks that I would, but I have it at 9 there with JT, followed by Candice Bergen from season 2, Don Rickles from season 9, Peyton Manning from season 32 at 6. I got Marty Short's Christmas episode we talked about last week, season 38. Alec Baldwin is at number 4. John Hamm is at number 3, season 34. I got Coppola and Wendt as my number 2 episode from all the episodes we talked about here. I think that it just has all of the things that I look for to give it a top 10 rating. And I think it has to be there. I'm feeling really strong about that one. And then the only one to top it is my Tom Hanks and Keith Richards, which I think is a practically perfect episode of Saturday Night Live. And I'll see if that one can be beat before we get to the end of this countdown. Bill, you did something different. So let's hear what you did.
Yeah, John, we're kind of going in different directions these last couple of weeks. I put JT at number 13, right behind Don Rickles here. It is a great episode, but again, we're talking about the best of the best, and the Virginica of it all kind of takes it down just a small notch for me. I've got, as I said, Rickles at 12, Candy at 11. I put Coppola and Wendt here at number 10. I had a problem with both this and Adam in different ways as far as kind of taking my bias out of it. And it is very important. It is a very, bellwether mark in the history of the show, but I don't know that I could put it over some of the other epic episodes that we've talked about. Might have to reconsider that as we go along here. Number 9, Hank, season 16, Marty at 8. Larry at 7, Nate at number 6, and then here I slid Adam Sandler in much higher than you have him, John. He's going to be mad at you. So I think this is one of the best alum host episodes that we could possibly hope for. Had everything, including somebody coming back to the show that we hadn't seen a lot in the last 25 years before that. My top 4 remains unchanged. I've got Ham at 4, Farrell at 3, Alec Baldwin at number 2, and then Tom Hanks remains number 1 for me.
Okay, Fred, which list are you feeling better about right now? Fred, we got you?
I feel like no. I'm just thinking. I think I have to go with Bills at the moment.
Okay, tell us why.
Just like he has like JT a little low, but like I mean they're kind of similar. I'm not
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot, but if you're feeling Bills, that's totally fine.
I guess I was just like a little less bullish on the Coppola Wendt one, which we just spoke about. Like 10 feels good, better than 2 for me. That's really it. That's driving that right now.
Yeah, I just think there's just something special about it. There's just certain moments where I feel like the chills are there, and every time I watch it, I just get excited. I love how conceptual it is, and it works for me. It works for me so much better in the way that the Grodin one, I know people love that one, but it works just so much better for me at this time. Ajax, how do you feel about my list versus Bill's?
Respectfully, I got to go with Bill's list here. I mean, he's got Sandler up there. He's got Farrell up there. I mean, the former cast hosted episodes for me are just so strong. And not just because they're the hosts, but because the episodes are just so jam-packed full of juicy goodness. And I like me some juicy goodness. So I got to go with Bill's.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Bill, you're winning this one. I'll have to rethink some things and see how we do over the next 3 weeks. These, like I said, everything's fluid. We'll lock them in once we have all 50 episodes here on the countdown. As far as your predictions are concerned, you added a 5-timer, another one to the list, though you didn't need it, with another Justin Timberlake episode. We also added a cast member to the list. We're at 9 out of 13 now with Adam Sandler hosting this week. And we added 2 more seasons to the list with new episodes from season 44 and season 11. So do you feel like we have 9 episodes left? Are we going to get 4 more cast member episodes and 2 more new seasons?
I think we'll get the seasons, especially since the 2 that we added tonight were definitely not on my radar. I mean, I obviously thought Sandler and Wendt could be something that we talked about, and pleasantly surprised to see that we did get them. But 2 of the worst seasons in the history of the show, getting a moment in the sun here this close to the top. I think we'll get that. And it is 12 out of 13 cast members, John. I'll keep harping on that. But
oh, is it? My bad. All right. Oh no, because you're taking the writers. The writers. No, 9 out of 13. Okay, got it.
Not going to get the finales, so that's clear at this point.
No, finales. I think it's fair to say that you may have lost that one, but we'll recount it all as we head towards the end. So that'll do it for our discussion here tonight. Obviously, a jam-packed podcast with a ton of SNL news heading into 51 to talk about these 3 episodes and all of our discussion, but really appreciate everyone for being live with us in the chat here tonight. Of course, if more SNL news breaks, you know where to find us. We'll be here to talk through it. And if not, we will be back next week to talk through the next 3 episodes. And just one programming note, our next episode of SNL's greatest episodes of all time, 9, 8, and 7, will take place next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, not Monday night. Monday is Labor Day, so we're going to take off for that day for the long weekend, but we'll be back on Tuesday night to go through everything. So if you're looking for us, then that is why we aren't live, but we'll be there and then returning the following Monday for the next weekend. We'll be live Mondays throughout the rest of the year. So really, really fun time here tonight. Hope you can enjoy our other videos by subscribing to the podcast. We're working on a new episode of Everything You Need to Know about SNL season 24. That will be out extremely soon. So keep locked into the podcast and follow us at the SNL Network to see all of the great graphics that we have for these episodes, as well as all the announcements and news about what's happening in the SNL world. Stay locked in at the SNL Network. Bill Kenny, thanks for joining us here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. What a great night. The closer we get, the more excited it is to talk about these episodes. Just can't wait to see what the top 10 brings.
Yeah, will be very exciting. Ajax, you were awesome here tonight, so appreciate you joining us. Please tell the listeners anything that you would like to plug.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that. And yeah, you and James, those Everything You Need to Know. I mean, those are so well done. They could be on Peacock like in a second. Peacock, take note. But yeah, I do have a new podcast. It's called Cover Wars. And if you like cover songs, we, my friend and I, Seth, we try to find the top 3 cover versions of popular songs. We just did Black Hole Sun. So if you want to check that out, it's at Cover Wars Podcast on YouTube.
Wow, that's really interesting. I'm gonna have to check that out. I love music, so for me, that's a great time. Appreciate you, Ajax, joining us, and thanks for your continued support of the show. Fred, always a pleasure to catch up with you. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Anything you would like to say to listeners?
Ajax, that sounds awesome. I love covers, so I'm going to check that out. And thank you, John and Bill, for having me. This is a blast. I love this every summer. I don't know what's going to be next summer, but this is a great time. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, if we will, we have some ideas, so we'll see as we get towards the end of the countdown. We'll have to do a grand finale at the end of the countdown and go through all of the weeks of podcasting set by set, and then have a big reveal. But yeah, really fun stuff here with Bill and Ajax and Fred in the chat here tonight. I want to thank Late Nighter for being our presenting partner for the show here. If you want to stay locked into late night news, they have a ton of great articles over there, including some interviews as well. Some great stuff happening over at latenighter.com. And just really appreciate everybody joining us week after week. So, of course, we will see you next Tuesday night for our next show. My name is John Schneider from the Saturday Night Network. Have a good one, everybody.